Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of March 6, 2018. It's 6 p.m. here at Town Hall. I'm calling the meeting to order. Under announcements, as we're going to try to remember to do for the next 2.5 years, we'd like to remind everybody of the Town of Hatfield 350th anniversary logo contest, as well as the other events that will be coming up for 2020. So please visit www.hatfield350.com or the Town of Hatfield's link, and then the 350th anniversary, the town's website, and then there's a link to the Hatfield's 350th anniversary. Okay. Any other announcements?
Well, I think we should go over the tax bill stuff, why third and fourth went out and why it's before the first and second.
Yeah, Sharon asked for an announcement earlier. Yeah.
Just to explain.
Sharon, you're going to do that?
You want me to?
Yeah. Thank
So,
you.
as you all know, we were waiting to try to get approval or special legislation from the state so that we could have the bills due in 30 days. And we kind of got backlogged in the State Department's schedule, and they kept getting put on the ballot and put on the voting list, and it hasn't happened. So at this point, even if we got that, it would be due like a week or two due before the May 1st due date. So as we had talked about last week, we went ahead and just said, okay, everything will be due May 1st. So everybody's bills went out yesterday. Everybody's bills, third and fourth quarter, were in the same envelope. They will both be due May 1st, so that there's no confusion there. There's 2 bills in there, both due that date, so that we could just get them out and kind of lay that to rest, that the bills are out and good. As we know, excise was due yesterday. I think most people paid, so we're good there, and, you know, we're moving forward, so.
And if you want to pay early?
Yeah, pay early, pay often. We'll take all your money.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we know there was a lot of work that happened throughout this whole process, but especially last week and over the weekend. People came into work to get those envelopes stuffed with the bills and to get those into the mail. So people.
But any questions, obviously, if anybody has, just please call us.
Okay.
All
Great.
right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sharon.
Ed, did you have anything? Cindy, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Actually, Town Clerk Lydia had an announcement she'd like to make.
I just received today a resignation from a member of the Hatfield Housing Authority Committee. And so it's in time, so I'm going to be putting another position on the ballot for this annual town election. So there'll be a position on the Housing Authority, and this will be to fill the remainder of a 5-year term to 2021, so it'll be a 3-year term to 2021. So if anyone's interested in serving on the Housing Authority, please get in touch with me. I have nomination papers ready at any time, so hopefully they're not due back until March 27th, so there's plenty of time to get 20 or more signatures.
Okay, and March 27th is the date for all nomination.
Right, all nomination papers are due by the 27th at 5 o'clock. But since I normally leave at 4:30, if everyone could get them in by 4:30, that'd be great. But legally, I'm required to stay open till 5 o'clock.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you very much.
But
Marlene, did you have any announcements? Were there any announcements?
I don't have anything.
Okay, all right. Next order of business, excuse me. Next order of business is there anybody here for public forum?
Hi, just real quick. I know I saw there's some more on here tonight. I was watching the last meeting, and I know you guys had cut out before starting to go through the department stuff. And I know personally I travel a lot. I can't make it to a lot of meetings, wish I could make to more. But I know people for various reasons have reasons why they can't make it. And I think as we approach the budget cycle, I know every year it comes up at town meeting that there's been a lot of meetings and discussions on the finances and stuff. So I think any and all of those discussions that we can have televised, recorded, would be good. I know I personally try and watch them. I don't make it to as many meetings as I'd like. So don't know what the plan is for tonight, but going forward, if we can try and do that, I think it would certainly help out, especially with the financial situation that we're in. And I think there was a big turnout at the special town meeting, which is good, and hopefully people continue to get involved. So just that, and thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you. Anybody else here?
Yes, please.
Yes. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
My name's Pat Carnavale. I'm the Regional Director for MEMA, which our area covers Worcester West. I know there's been some talk in town about emergency management and the position. I just want to speak on behalf of the Emergency Management Director that you currently have. Cindy's been with you for, I believe, since 2010, if I'm correct. And Cindy, I have 161 cities and towns that fall under Region 3-4. Cindy is definitely in the top 1% of emergency management directors in that just those two regions, but I would say that the same for the entire state. I don't know if you recently know or not, but she was asked to speak at our statewide conference. She's been asked to be on a bunch of other committees, but because of her role in the community and everything else she doesn't always have that opportunity. I understand there's fiscal constraints and things like that, but from what I understand, we're talking about maybe $5,000 a year. And I don't want to get into numbers because I don't know the numbers. That's really not for me to discuss. But for all the things that she does, and I could list them out if you choose to, Mr. Chairman, the deal you're getting is incredible. And I can't say, and I don't normally do this. I really don't. I mean, I work enough hours. I don't want to be out late if I don't have to, just as you guys don't want to be out late. You have an extraordinary person. And if you're able to find the way to finance that $5,000, and again, I'm not going to be specific on numbers because I don't know the numbers specifically. It's in your best interest to do that, and I truly mean that, Mr. Chairman, and respective select people. Again, I can list out. I mean, there's a list of 7 or 8 different things that she currently does, and she does it phenomenally. I mean, just something as simple as a grant, the emergency management planning grant, that is roughly, I'm going to say, $2,500 a year, which she brings back to public safety and here to the town of Hatfield. Now, to some people, $2,500 may not seem a lot, but $2,500 is still something that you've been getting for the past 7 or 8 years. EMD meetings. She started an emergency response team. She does her comprehensive emergency management plan that blossoms out to other grants. So I guess that's why I'm here, Mr. Chairman, just to express my concern and that I want the town of Hatfield to know and the select board to know that you're very fortunate to have the individual that you currently have. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer those questions. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any further, or excuse me, is there any additional public forum? Oh, okay. All right, we have a warrant that we need to approve. It's voucher number 1033, and the amount is for $69,359.10. These are warrants that are made up of numerous different bills, but the Board of Selectmen, even though we review them during the week, Marlene reviews them.
An accounts payable warrant.
Yeah, it's an accounts payable warrant, so we should just vote upon it, kind of make it official, so. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion to approve.
There you go, it's up top.
Voucher number 1033.
In the amount? Okay. Do you mind if I just add the amount to that, to your motion? 69, just to make sure we have it all.
$69,399.10.
Great, thank you. So the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Okay. Excuse me. All right, posted business. So we have a list, a 3-page list of the annual reappointments to make for the various boards and committees that various departments have liaisons to or are assigned to. So you have the list, right, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the list of boards and committees to be reappointed.
Trying to get your attention.
Who is?
Lydia.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I just noticed there's one that's a no,
Yes.
so I just want to make sure that's excluded.
Right. I was going to put the word yes as part of the, thank you.
Perfect,
Yeah.
sorry,
No, I appreciate it.
we didn't
Let-
discuss this ahead.
No,
so-
we'll try to do this right the first time, because it's going to be a little complicated as it is, I think.
Yeah.
You're welcome, thank you. So I'm going to make a motion to reappoint the submitted list for all those positions that have a yes in the reappoint column, other than the highlighted ones, because those are appointed by the various boards, you know, if you have a liaison to various committees, if that makes sense. And I would also exclude at this point the appointment of the emergency management director. So that's the motion.
And the constable,
Well, right, so that's the motion,
Yeah.
and then we have a board member who also has 3 appointments who probably should not, well, who should recuse themselves from being part of that vote. So we can, how did we discuss this? We can, so that's the motion
yeah,
as made, because you can't vote your own position to,
correct, you can't vote, you
appoint
can't
yourself.
vote your own position. If there's
So-
any discussions on it.
so let's get it, so the motion's been made, is there a second?
A second for discussion.
Okay. So under discussion, what I would suggest is Cindy could vote on all except the 3, if she's looking to be reappointed, except for Constable, Emergency Management Planning Committee as a rep, and the Hampshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee.
Right,
And-
with the
and-
exception of
And the
those.
emergency management planning committee, yeah,
Right.
there's
Yep.
4.
Right. To vote with the exception of those, yes.
With the exception of those, right. Well, there's really 3, because the emergency management director is not part of my motion. If you're,
Okay, sorry,
it's all right.
yeah,
We're just trying to get it,
Yep.
as Joe likes to say, we're trying to get it right the first time. So, is there, so that would be my, so we can.
I have no idea what you're saying.
So we can vote for everything, and you could just simply say something, I recuse myself from this one,
Okay, so,
and that one. We can vote for all the rest if that's the way we're going to do this.
okay, can you start from the beginning? I'm recusing myself from what and why? That's what you want me to do.
Constable, on
Okay,
the first page.
okay. Great, I'll meet you in a second.
Emergency Management Planning Committee, I don't know if that's due to the role of being the director, that's why you're on there or not. It's wherever your name is, Cindy. You
Right.
just want to recuse yourself, so that's why I,
And there should be,
these are terms that are up, by the way, so they're, you could.
oh, I know that, because I've
okay.
already sent in my stuff to do them again, but you're missing one. That's why I'm asking. There's 4, not 3.
There's
Are you
4.
including that one?
I got 4.
Well, you said, go ahead.
That was not part of my motion. I said except for those that were highlighted and the emergency management director position. That was my motion. So there's 3. That's going to be a separate vote.
But I cannot follow what you're saying. You're talking about highlighted.
These are highlighted. We don't need to appoint those
That says
tonight.
Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
It's got nothing to do with you.
Okay.
The town clerk and I discussed this for trying to figure out the easiest way of how to say it and have it make sense.
Lydia, can you explain it to me, because I'm not following, please?
okay. So he's making a motion to appoint everyone that has a yes,
Yes.
except for the emergency management director.
Right.
So.
And
And the highlighted ones, which are all the ones that are like the school rep to the capital improvement planning committee, because we have to wait until they have their reorganization meeting to see who they're gonna recommend to be appointed to that position. So those are being accepted as well,
excluded.
excluded, accepted, excluded.
Okay, so if you're excluding one of the positions I hold, why not the other 3?
because I think they want to have a discussion about that.
Correct.
Oh, so you waited for the gentleman who spoke, who traveled all the way from Pittsfield to leave before you decided to say that. It's very interesting.
What
So
are you
if that's what
talking
you're
about?
doing
What is,
He was here for public forum, and this is the first order of business. Don't accuse me of something that's absolutely not true.
What's not true?
That I waited for someone to leave. He could have stayed. How did I know he was leaving? These are my notes. Did them this afternoon. You know, don't make false
There's no
accusations like that,
accusation
Cindy.
there. I said he left, and then you decided to do it. You waited the
It's
pause.
still,
That's
it
very
wasn't-
interesting.
It wasn't at the right time. It wasn't on
Yeah.
on the agenda.
that's why we follow agendas.
All right, so,
Good.
so
Remember the email you sent this afternoon about transparency? Don't forget that.
I don't know what you're talking about, Cindy, and that was yesterday.
Whenever you don't like what I say you don't know what I'm talking about,
Be-
Brian.
be-
Okay.
Well, you know why? Because it's hard to follow what you're
The
saying.
vote to approve the appointments
Okay,
is
Brad.
excluding the constable position which Cindy fills, correct? Because she can't vote to appoint herself. And also as a representative on the Emergency Management Planning Committee, correct?
And there's also Hampshire Regional Emergency
And the
Planning
Hampshire
Commission.
Regional
So there's 4.
Planning.
Right, and that's why I
do you
asked,
want to
because he
exclude
said
all
3.
four? Exclude
that's
all-
fine.
all four, and then you can discuss all four.
That's fine.
You want to do it that way?
Yeah, yep, that's fine.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
just asking for clarity, because the first time you said 3, I said there's 4 on there, and then you said plus the highlighted ones.
well, we could
That's
have,
why I
the-
asked
we
you.
could have my original motion read back if you want, so you can understand exactly what I said.
If that's
Or
you.
we can just do all 4 and then have the conversation about it. Either way, it's going to be the same,
yeah.
going to be the same outcome.
It doesn't matter.
Whichever you think is good, I'll go with.
I was fine with the original motion,
Okay,
but, I mean, I'm trying to explain it, but
that's why I asked, because you said there was 2 or 3 first, then there was like, I'm on there 4
I
times.
said 3.
Good. All right, you ready to read it, and I'll tell you if I have any questions.
Well, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'm just saying, it's pretty clear. We're voting on all of them except for the 4 with Cindy
Okay,
and
it's
these
4
that are
then.
highlighted.
All 4 now, then.
And the one that's no.
if
Sure.
that's easier.
So that's-
Sounds good.
That's fine,
Understand,
but,
then
and Cindy
Because it's
should
not-
go on
Yes.
record as
That's fine.
recusing herself from those 4.
Should I leave the table?
I believe so.
Yes,
If
I
there's
thought so,
gonna-
too.
If there's going to be discussion, it's just a simple vote, then you just don't vote, but if there's going to be discussion, under ethics, you should recuse yourself. So, since those were, so Cindy, do you?
I got to redo my motion,
Yeah.
because that's not the motion I made,
Right,
What?
for all 4 of them.
right.
So you've got to make another motion.
Withdraw my motion.
Yep, make another motion.
Make a motion to approve the appointments in the yes column other than the 4 where Cindy is the appointee and the one that has a no.
Cindy, don't leave yet. You can vote.
You can
This
vote
one.
on this one.
Correct.
This one you vote on.
I thought you just made the motion, so.
And Ed
It's under this
seconded?
discussion where you can't have the,
I'll second it.
Okay. So,
motion's been made and seconded. Are there any, so, under discussion, does everyone understand what we're voting on?
Yes.
got it?
All but the 4 and the highlighted ones.
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm saying I hope.
So now you should,
No, you got to take the vote. I didn't hear, all those in
Oh,
favor?
oh, you're talking about, okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm staying, because I'm not quite sure. So I'm sure everything passed, right?
Okay, all right. She still has, she can still abstain if she wants to with it. Okay.
Yeah, it's up to,
Okay.
it's up to the selectman person.
All right, so now if you're going to take up the other 4, now
Yep.
she'll need to recuse herself.
So I'll make a motion for Constable, Emergency Management Director, Emergency Management Planning Committee, and Hampshire Regional Emergency Planning Commission to appoint Cindy Doty.
Well, if you're going to recuse
You have to
yourself,
leave the room.
Leave the room?
Yeah.
That's what I was asking. Okay,
Yeah.
I had to leave the I just had to leave the table, you said, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said room,
No, I
sorry.
said table.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to second your motion, but I want to explain. I have discussion, okay? So Ed made the motion to appoint Cindy to all four, to reappoint Cindy to all four positions that she currently holds. One of those positions, which is the Emergency Management Director position, is being wrapped into fiscal year 19 as of July 1st. With the fire chief's reorganization of the department, that position is going to move into the fire department and not be a separate appointment, like it is now.
Well, that brings up a question for discussion, because I know that the Emergency Planning Commission wants to come forward to explain why they're against that, and I think we should actually listen to both sides of the issue, unless you feel the fire chief does have the sole responsibility of appointing or reorganizing. I'm just bringing this up for discussion. So.
Sure.
Chairman, may I approach the bench?
Sure, please. Thanks, Lydia. Yeah.
In light of Ed's comment, probably, I mean, this appointment doesn't, although I like to get these appointments done so I can get people in to get sworn in, this doesn't have to be made tonight. My suggestion would be, if you're going to do the other three, make those appointments, get that done, and just keep this one till a later date if you want to talk to the committee or
Well,
talk to others or whatever. So,
believe it or not, I think 15 minutes ago when I made the original motion, that was my intent. But
Yeah.
we got
Okay.
off track.
Yeah.
So what my suggestion was going to be is we make the appointment of those three and make the appointment of the Emergency Management Director until June 30th of 2018. And if there's further discussion on it, fine. But, you know, we can't go beyond what a reorganization of a department does, in my opinion.
right,
So, you know, or we make no change, is what you're saying? It's not really, because the whole thing was because these expire April 1st, right?
right,
So-
and the only reason I say do nothing for that particular appointment is just give me a little time to do a little more research, because I'm not sure, I mean, it's a 3-year term. I know
Correct.
we had some discussions about even changing all these instead of April 1st to March 30th to try to see if we can change them to match the fiscal year, which would be July 1st to June 30th. So if you can give me a little time to maybe do a little research to see if you can even do the appointment just till June 30th.
Lydia, that's fine. This wasn't to try
Yeah.
to pull a fast
Oh,
one.
no, no,
This
no,
one
no,
was to
no. I know,
allow the process to play out until the next fiscal year starts.
right. I
Given
just
that the
think it might be
reorganization
just
that was
safer
presented.
until I can figure it out.
That's fine. So in essence, we're doing nothing on that one,
To do nothing on that one, just save that appointment for a later date. So,
as long as it
yeah.
doesn't expire April 1st. That's what's driving this
Right.
entire night
Right.
regarding this
Yeah.
topic.
But I think you'll probably be having a meeting before the end of the month, so. that'll
Well,
just-
yes, so I guess what I would say is, I think the fire chief has submitted his budget with his policy, or with his process and his reorganization, and I don't foresee that changing. So I don't know by not doing something, what changes, I guess. Which is why I was trying to put a final date on it, so April 1st didn't expire.
It doesn't,
I mean,
it doesn't hurt
by
to.
waiting till April 1st is fine, but I think this is a subject that should be discussed, because there's some issues that people would like to discuss. And if it comes time to where the fire chief has the final say, then fine, and he can reorganize. But I just think we owe it to the planning committee, the emergency planning committee, and the people in town to discuss this issue on the changes. That's all.
And the emergency management committee is not affected by this at all.
Well,
Because just to be clear.
I understand
I-
that,
well,
but they want to come in front of the board and discuss it. So give them the opportunity to come in front of the board
Ed, I don't have a problem with that.
discussion.
I want to make sure that the town understands that this has nothing to do with the members that make up the emergency planning committee. This is just about the reorganization of the emergency management director.
That's fine, but it can wait till April 1st, right? Because they want to come in on the next couple of weeks to discuss it, that's all.
Just
So,
next meeting, which I think is what, like?
21st.
21st or?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, so,
do those three, and then
yeah.
at least we can do the last one after that meeting if you want to have the meeting. I mean, we'll still be on
Yeah, we'll
target,
put it
right?
on the agenda for the 21st
Yeah.
and,
We're still on target to meet the April 1st
yep.
deadline.
So you'll need to withdraw your motion because it included all 4 positions and redo it.
I'll
withdraw
amend my motion to
amend it.
appoint those 3 to Cindy, pending discussion on the emergency management director until April 1st. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think you needed the pending, but
Or do you want me?
No action on the emergency management
I
director.
withdraw my motion, and my
Yes.
new motion is to appoint Cindy to,
the 3 positions.
which is Constable, Emergency Management Planning Committee, and Hampshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee.
Second.
And then we can discuss
Well,
by,
let's just leave it,
okay.
that's the motion's been made and seconded
okay.
on those 3 positions. Any
Yeah.
further discussion?
That's-
All
that's
those
my
in favor?
motion. Aye.
Aye.
We're
Okay.
taking no action on the emergency management director position tonight.
Okay,
How's that?
Perfect.
perfect.
I don't know if perfect's the right word, but
Yep.
thank you. We'll wait for Cindy to get back in position. All right, thank you. We're all back in our seats, and we've been joined by the Finance Committee, where we'll be going over the school committee budget, the DPW budget, and the accountant's budget. So with that, Superintendent Robert is here, and Heather Cahill, one of the school committee members who helps in the budget process, to give the overview of the school department's budget for next year.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. So I'm just going to go through the presentation that I just handed out to you. So really, we're talking about really 2 budgets tonight. The overall budget, what it costs to run the schools, and then what we're looking at for local appropriations, which is what we're going to be looking at for the vote on town floor. So the overall school budget we're looking at for fiscal year 19 is $5,661,506.74. But part of that is what is an offset, which is funds that are either appropriated through school choice or through grants or other revolving accounts that are used towards the overall operations of the school. And we are looking next year to use $1,208,706.58 in offset. On the next page, you can see that I break down the offset. We are looking at $500,000 out of school choice. This is something that we've been doing for the last few years. The school committee's approved. When I start building the budget, I automatically use $500,000 towards what we would call the regular education. I can tell you that this $500,000 pays for all of our utilities, all of our maintenance. In the line item budget, you can see, when you go through that, in the comment section, you can see the areas that are paid for out of school choice. But it also covers most of our athletics. It covers a lot of our technology as well. So those costs, and one of the things that we've been careful for over the years is not to put too many salaries into school choice. Again, this money is dependent upon students choosing to come to Hatfield. And while you're going to see later that we've been fortunate to be able to maintain our school choice numbers, that isn't always the case in every district. And we can't always guarantee that we're going to have the same number of students, though we try to stay competitive, and part of what we do when we build a budget is to make sure that we have those kind of programs that do make us attractive for school choice as well. We're also looking to offset $452,664.47 in what we call school choice special education. Some of this money is tied specifically to school choice students on IEPs and is reimbursed by the district where those students live. Others of it is to pay for Hatfield students who are placed out of district. One of the things I want to note is that this particular cost in a school budget is always unpredictable. This is the monies that if a student were to move into Hatfield in August and needed an out-of-district placement, or if it's October into the school year and all of a sudden we need to place a student out, and these out-of-district placements are quite expensive. We're talking transportation as well as tuition. This is what we've used school choice money for in the past. So this could potentially increase. One of the nice things about using school choice monies is that it never goes back to the town. Other districts that don't have this luxury of having the school choice monies, what they've had to do in the past when they have an unexpected special education expense, they would either go and have a special town meeting and ask for it to come out of stabilization, or they'd make cuts. And the last thing you really want to start doing is making cuts mid-year in the school system. So that has been something that we've been doing for the last few years. But it is quite a bit of school choice money we're talking about. Also,
So
yes.
can you just, for my limited knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
this is a separate pocket of money, or is it all school choice?
It's all school choice.
But this is just money that's associated with particular students that are coming into the district
It's how we allocate it. Yes,
from
exactly.
other towns.
Exactly.
So if a student in Hatfield were to require out-of-town placement, we, the town of Hatfield, have to come up with that money, correct?
We have used school
Yes.
choice money in the last few years, though, to try
To
to
do
cover
it, you
our
have,
own
you have
Hatfield
the
kids as well.
option of doing that?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
That's a good point, Daryl. So, yes, so rather, for our own students that live here, if they need additional services, right, rather than come back to the town as a whole, the school's been fortunate to be able to absorb those costs within their budget using school choice funds. Correct.
We also been looking to offset the overall budget with using over $90,000 in grant money. This is entitlement money. As far as I know now, we should be getting it. Right now with federal grants, we're always a little concerned because that could change year to year depending on the political climate in Washington at the time and so forth, what happens. But, this is money that it's been fairly consistent. We're also looking at taking money out of our preschool revolving grant, which is tuitions that are paid for our preschool, as well as some grants that we receive for early childhood, and that's in excess of $84,000. And then you see on the bottom, we have three other categories. The athletic revolving account, which is our fees that parents pay to have students participate in our sports. And then we have a Title I grant, which offsets about $34,000 in salaries. And then a circuit breaker.
How does that circuit breaker work, John?
For students who cost, students either in district or out of district, but they have to be Hatfield students. School choice students are not part of circuit breaker. So a Hatfield student, for instance, that might cost us in excess of 4 times what the state says it should cost us. So generally, they have to reach a caliber of about $45,000. So in excess of that, so let's say a student costs us to educate $60,000. What we can do is we can take the difference between that $45,000, that $60,000, whatever it is, and we can get 75% of that cost reimbursed. That's what circuit breaker is supposed to be.
Is that a federal or state?
State.
That's state, okay.
The problem with circuit breaker is there's only so much money in the pool that's allocated each year. And based on the number of students that are submitted, it could decrease. For instance, this year, circuit breaker is being reimbursed, I'm told, at 65%, not the 75%. So we do the best to budget it. I always budget it on a conservative side, and at 22,500, based on looking at the students that we have, and every year I need to submit these students to the state for reimbursement. That's what we're anticipating and getting.
Are these mostly sped students,
They
or are
have-
they?
They're all
sped students, okay.
And there are about, how many?
total special education students.
No.
For the
Students who qualify
It's
for
a
the circuit breaker.
handful.
So like 5 or fewer?
Yeah, that's pretty close to what we're looking at, probably about 5 students. Yeah. So that's the offset. So if you look at applying the offset to the overall budget, what remains is what we call local appropriations. And what we're looking at for next year is a request of $4,452,800. This would represent a 1.85% increase in local appropriations from fiscal year 18. Looking at Chapter 70, which is money that the town receives in support of education, at last, the indicator that I saw that what Hatfield should be receiving next year is $832,156. And that would be applied towards the local appropriation, leaving the remaining amount at $3,620,644.16.
Say that again. I'm a little slow. Sorry.
The state receives Chapter 70 money to support.
Understood,
Yeah,
right.
to support their schools.
Yeah.
So I factored that in, based on what Marlene, I think what we received as an indicator of what, I don't know if you've gotten anything more up to date. but-
Nothing recent, yeah, just I use the governor's number.
Yeah, and that's the number that I had, 832.1. So that is money that town receives that they have to use towards education.
Okay.
But what I don't understand about the already factored in part is, do you still need 4.4 from the town, or you
Yes.
need only 3.6?
I need $4,452,800 from the town.
That's the town side, correct?
town
Right,
side.
right.
And that includes the
Well,
832,000?
that 832,156
Has to go.
has to be spent towards the schools.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
So that will, yeah.
So when we
I
plug a
think-
number into the town's overall operating budget, $4,452,800 is what we need to appropriate.
I got it.
Right.
This is the total.
It still represents 1.85 increase.
Yes.
So,
What we ask for on town floor is a 1.85% increase. That Chapter 70 money from last year, I don't think there's a much of an increase. It's probably, I think, in the neighborhood of about $6,000 over what it was the previous year. Chapter 70 has for the longest time been virtually
Flatlined.
level funded.
Right.
Yeah, with very slight increases. One of the factors to consider with Chapter 70 is that it is based on our Hatfield students. And our Hatfield enrollments, perfect segue to the next slide,
right. Can I,
has
I'm just,
decreased.
before you go to the next line, can I just put in the plug that we are, we've told every budget that every department that certainly there's a possibility that all budgets will be level funded. And so just for you folks to consider, if we could not appropriate the 1.85%, what would that mean to your budget too?
The budget that you have in front of you, it would mean we would have to reduce it by $80,956.
Say that again, 80,000?
$80,956 would make this a level funded budget.
Okay, thank you.
The Chapter 70 money comes back later? I still don't quite understand.
No, it's a yearly,
We receive quarterly payments
Quarterly,
or?
right.
We receive
twice
quarterly
a year?
payments to the
Right.
town.
I think
That just
so.
has to,
but all that is used
for school.
for the school. By,
So even
Gotcha.
including it is still the 1.85% increase?
Yes,
Is that-
Yes.
that's correct, John.
That is correct.
okay.
John, do you have any sense of if you, and it may be premature, but you might also have seen our last meeting and thought about it. If you had to cut the 80,000, what does that mean to the school? What is it gonna cost us?
What would we cut? Well, I can't speak as one person. The school committee would have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And it kind of goes into, I think the discussion I had earlier around school choice, because it's always tempted to say, well, just take it out of school choice. But again, I just want to,
don't wanna
I
take
would
salaries
advise
out.
the committee
Yeah.
to consider reducing, honestly, to have a serious conversation about reducing programs and making cuts in the budget before dipping more into school choice. My concern is that, you know, that school choice reserve, which is really the difference between what we put into the budget each year and what we can carry forward, has decreased every single year.
Right.
And that is the money that we have used, as I said before, to cover the unexpected expenses. We also have used it for several capital projects that we have not gone to the town for.
Absolutely.
Projects that otherwise we'd be going to the town, I think. And when you look at the number of capital projects that we've actually brought forward, they're very few for a school system.
Right.
So, you know, that would be my concern. I only have to look at our neighbors who have, over the years, taken to the point where they are spending only the school choice money that they get. There's not a reserve. And now what's happening in those districts is that every time an unexpected expense comes along, they are going and holding special town meetings. And lots of times what you end up in a situation is that you have a special ed child that you have to place out of district. You have no say in that matter.
There's no
'cause that's-
choice, right.
So then, and if the town can easily just say, no, we're not gonna give you any more money, then basically you are no choice but to make cuts. My concern is that if you start going down that road, the cuts you're gonna make are gonna affect your school choice kids. And your Hatfield kids too. So,
Absolutely.
you know, and sometimes it seems like, why are we sitting on the school choice reserve? But that reserve is really not that big when you consider, you're talking about a $5 million budget. It's really not that much of reserve. At any time, we could need it.
And I would add, John, that out of that $5 million budget, $1 million is already being earmarked for next year out of school choice, or, you know, $950,000. So
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's not like the school department's sitting on it.
Sitting on a
and-
big egg.
Yeah, you know,
Right.
for a rainy day, because it's a rainy day every year.
Right, it's
With
a rainy
with
day every
budgets,
year.
as we know, so.
And as I go through my presentation, we can talk about some of the things that we would probably have to consider perhaps cutting.
Yeah, I think that's important in case we do have to consider a level funded budget. Understanding what it's gonna mean to the school may change some of our minds and help us.
Well, let me go through, so looking at enrollment, as I said, our Hatfield students have decreased. Our overall enrollments have decreased. Our students enrolling from Hatfield. Though we have tried to look at some projections down the road, and we don't think it's gonna be a trend that's gonna continue every year. We're gonna have smaller and smaller kindergarten classes, for instance. Based on the census, our kindergarten's classes would probably stay fairly constant. It's all hard to predict sometimes. But as you can see, overall, our enrollment last year was, on October 1st, was 442 students. This year, it's 435 students. With that, though, we have maintained the same number of school choice students at 126. And I think that is important to note.
John, how many people school choice out at the high school level?
I don't have the exact figure in front of me at the high school level. I think overall, last I looked at it, we were in the neighborhood of about, I want to say about 40 students that are choicing out. More so at the high school level, and the reasons generally are because they're either going back to their they've come here for elementary school and they go back once they hit either 7th grade or 9th grade. Generally, students that have choiced out or return, type of, you know, that type of thing, or choicing out generally is what you're asking me about. So we're talking about Hatfield students that may choose to choice out.
Right.
What we've seen is that larger school districts do offer more electives,
Okay.
particularly perhaps in the areas of AP, honors courses, or just sports has been a factor. You know, we do co-op football, but that doesn't always appeal, where we can go and actually play for Northampton as opposed to
Right.
co-oping with Smith Vogue. For various reasons, we've had students that have gone out, but it's generally for something very specific to that student. there have been instances where students have said, I just don't want to be in such a small school system where everybody, I've grown up with these kids, they all know me, and I want to go someplace where I can pretty much be invisible and be,
Right.
so that's been the case too.
And is Smith Vocational considered a school choice out?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
you're gonna see that
Thank you.
later in the, yeah. The other thing is is that we are also losing students, we are losing some students to charter schools, which has been a more relatively new.
And charter is not choiced out.
No, but it impacts
In a way
in
it
a
is.
similar way, yeah.
Yes, it's money.
We
And-
pay more for charter school, is that, it used to,
2.5 times.
for a charter school, charter students.
Roughly, it's-
roughly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other place that we will lose students at times is for private schools. Certainly after 6th grade and after
Oh, yeah.
and after eighth
Eighth
grade,
grade.
we would lose kids to private schools, which is another reason that we need to maintain certain programs, because we
Right.
want to, we try to sell Smith Academy as, it's very similar to a private school experience for some kids.
Yes.
So, and that's been an
Absolutely.
appeal for some of our students choicing in, because they like, it's almost like a private school without having to spend the money for a private school.
Kind of the opposite reason for many of the students we receive are opposite of what John mentioned. Why our students leave, they want something bigger, and some of these kids that we get are in a big place and want something smaller and more intimate, so.
This has always been there.
Yeah.
And I imagine the school looks at things like, sort of branding type stuff, marketing and whatnot to
Oh, yeah.
school choice students quite a bit. But
So I just included, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I included a page just to talk about our Hatfield Public Schools as far as, we are, we're 93% of our students either last year, either 2 or 4 year college, 100% graduation rate. And Smith Academy, level 1, Hatfield Elementary School is a level 2 school, but that's, out of 5. I mean, we try to maintain, and I think we're doing a good job. And I just want to if we could look at the very bottom, just talk about, there are some unique things that are happening in our schools, and I do think it's worth just mentioning. Our forest learning program at the elementary school, we have students actually going out part of the day and just experiencing hands-on nature, and it's a unique program in our kindergarten, and next year, hopefully, in our 1st grade. Our Falcon's Nest, we do have a gifted program at the elementary school, which is appealing to a lot of these are appealing to these school choice students that come in. We're offering American Sign Language classes at Smith Academy this year, which has been a tremendous success. We are trying a few project-based initiatives. Again, students learning these 21st century skills, working collaboratively. We continue with virtual high school at Smith Academy, which offers some of that variety that students sometimes go to larger schools to get, where they can take courses that we don't have enough students or don't have the faculty to offer, but we can do it individually online. And just things like homecoming and declamations, those are just things that are very unique to Hatfield. I just wanted to kind of touch upon those. So what is new in the budget? Excuse me, what's in the budget? Let me start with that first. It does meet all of the federal, state, and local mandates, and there are many, and many of these mandates come unfunded. Provides the necessary professional development. We'd always like to have more, but we understand that there's restraints, fiscal restraints. So we try to pinpoint that professional development where it does the most amount of, has the best impact. Classroom materials and building maintenance as well. It does reflect increases in the collective bargaining agreements and in individual contracts, but most lines in this budget are level funded. Because if you go through and look at that, most are level funded with only a few slight adjustments for inflation. So when you think about a 1.8% increase in the local budget, that really doesn't reflect the contractual increases when you think about the teachers' contracts or.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, So what is new? There are some new things in this budget. Specifically, we have added a middle school chorus program for $4,653.20. What we currently have now is a chorus program at the elementary school, which is an after-school program. Parents pay for that. It's been tremendously successful. We have a pretty strong music program during the school day as well at the elementary school. And we have chorus at the high school. We do not have chorus in grades 7th and 8th.
Gap. Right.
Again, I hate to lose students because we don't have something to offer. So it was something the school committee discussed, and but for what basically would be is taking an existing music teacher, increasing that position by a 0.1, we can have middle school chorus next year. We are looking to add a 0.2 keyboarding teacher at the elementary school for $13,013. We have right now a teacher at the school who is a 0.8, an occupational therapist. What we're recommending is to increase her to full-time, which would be an increase of 0.2, and that other day, she would work with our students at the elementary level on their keyboarding skills. This is one of the areas that we identified that we are lacking, quite honestly, to other school districts. There are school districts out there that are starting keyboarding in 2nd, 3rd grade. We really don't start it until about 4th grade. So this will allow us to start keyboarding a little bit earlier. And the other change that we are looking to do is to replace a Title I math paraprofessional that we have this year with a 2-day-a-week teacher and a 3-day-a-week paraprofessional. And that would increase our interventions in the area of, particularly in the areas of math. And I factored that in at 18,521. On the next page are the savings that we have found when we built this budget. So we are projecting a savings of $38,125.75 due to retirements. We have not a lot of teachers this year, but we have some teachers retiring, and we also have administrative staff as well retiring, primarily at Smith Academy. So those teachers will not be replaced at the level that they're leaving. And
Right.
neither will the administrative assistants. So we have factored that in. The other change that we are looking to make is, and this isn't really looking at both, we've had a lot of discussion, I just want to say on this next item. The school committee's had a lot of discussion, and we've had a lot of input from teachers and from administrators. But we are proposing next year to have just one first-grade classroom next year instead of 2. Currently, we have 2. And that's a savings in a budget of $49,365.80. Plus, there'd be additional savings on the side of as far as for benefits and those type of things, which aren't factored in our budget. Currently, there are only 20 students enrolled in kindergarten. So we took careful time to look at the makeup of the kindergarten class. And we are recommending next year that we have 20 students in first grade. In light of looking at the overall budget, it seemed fiscally, I don't want to say irresponsible, but just not fiscally sound to have 2 classes of 10 students.
10 students each.
And, you know, we also talked about, you know, bringing in school choice students to fill, but that's really not our intention was never to bring in school choice students to support staff. It was where we had extra room.
Right.
So with that said, that is one thing that we are looking to do. One change, though, we are going to make next year is that we are going to reassign one of our paraprofessionals to be in that classroom all day long.
Right.
So we'll actually have a 2-to-1, you know, as far as for every 2 students, we'll have 1 staff member. And we are looking at one of our veteran paraprofessionals.
Great.
So it's, you know, and we've had discussions, and everybody seems at this point to think that it's going to work.
If somebody came to us with a first grader to school choice in, at this point, we'd say no, thank you?
We don't have any openings for first grade next year.
Yeah.
Unless it was a Hatfield resident that that moved into town. Then.
No, I meant school choice,
Yeah.
yes, thank
We
you.
didn't know, that was a discussion whether we
Okay.
would open up slots or not. So that is really, other than just adjustments for, there's some lines, and I'll be certainly happy to answer any questions, because you have an itemized line, breakdown line by line, I know.
Before you go there, could I just ask one question? Have you ever had to go to one first grade class before? In the past, have you ever gone to one?
In the distant
Or has
past,
it always been two?
Cindy, but not since I've been here.
Yeah,
This year we have one kindergarten.
right.
Yeah, this is a one, we have one kindergarten.
This seems to be the wave of things, kind of.
And we, yeah, I mean, one of the discussions,
Just,
one of the,
you think? Yeah, so it's like the first
and-
year for a while.
yeah,
then.
and we'll reassess it every year. It doesn't mean that we'll have one second grade next year, but at this stage, that's what we're recommending.
Right, thanks.
Mr. Cahill?
Just a quick question, John. You mentioned that the total outlays for the school this year would be $5,906,000, round numbers.
5,661,000.
5.6 what?
5,661,506.
And how does that compare to this year's outlays, this year's budget?
Overall budget?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
What kind of an increase?
It's actually less.
Yeah.
It is less. And I can tell you the
Back, isn't it?
yeah. And the reason for that is special education. Yeah. And it's very possible that come September 1st, that overall budget will be more. And that's really what happened to us last year. And it's because we built in, and that's what I'm saying before, in that school choice, we build in any unknowns. It's all unknown special education, which is such a moving target so often, especially for a small district.
Expensive moving target.
Well, yeah, and larger districts have programs established. So if a student moves in and needs, for instance, a intensive program for autistic children, very intensive type program, they'll have that. You know, whether, and they'll within the district. We will say, well, can we meet the child's needs in district? And we do everything we can to try to do that. But we are limited in what we can do. So oftentimes it's looking at what program, it's always the team decision. But, you know, we have been fortunate that we don't have more children placed out. And I think that's a credit to the programs that we have. And we also work, once a child is placed out of district, we work to try to bring that child back. And one of the things that you see reflection in is that actually we are looking to bring back next year at least two students that were placed out, and we're looking to bring them back to Smith Academy next year.
That's great.
Yeah, so, and that's part of that savings that you see in there.
I think just to make sure people are aware as well, the school committee and John, I think, do a great job. But John is also our special ed director, for those of you who didn't realize that. So in his free time and one of the many hats he wears. So when he talks about the team and special ed and doing the best that we as a district can do for them, he's leading the charge. So I just want to make sure everybody at home and everybody here understands that that's the other hat, or one of the other hats that he wears, besides being the superintendent.
And I heard he drives the bus, too.
And shovels roofs, and, yeah. Yep. Thank you, John. So does anybody have, Ed, Cindy, or anyone on the finance committee have any particular questions?
Just a quick question, pseudo-related. So 5 is the current sort of start age for school. And I would imagine over time that's sort of changing. You know, I'm noticing with my 4-year-old, it seems like, why isn't he in regular school right now? You know, is there any conversation in the education community about that? About the start age of school in this state, nationally?
I'm really not aware of any discussion, yeah, as far as starting kindergarten earlier than, no, I have not heard any discussion about that.
Thank you. I mean, at 3, my kid was like operating an iPad like crazy. It's like, oh, why? But thank you, I appreciate it.
John, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Heather,
thanks,
thank you.
John.
Bill, if there's any questions?
we,
Just about Smith Voc, that's the only thing.
yeah. And let me just say that I understand fully that a level-funded budget to the school is really a decrease, and it's pretty substantial, and it is my hope that we won't have to do that, but we're just trying to make sure everybody kind of knows the kind of constraints that we're all have been looking at.
Let me ask, when would we hear back as far as when will we hear back?
Well, I assume
what's your timeframe?
we get done tonight looking at budgets, and we will probably meet next week or the week after. I don't know, Marlene, we're working on the spreadsheet, right? Yeah, so
Mid-April probably, right? Does that seem? I
Early-
mean, we're going to meet before then, but as far as getting back and.
I would hope by early April, we would be able to get back to the school, because it wouldn't be fair to any department.
Oh, agreed.
You know, we want to make sure you have adequate time to look at it if we think we have to go down that road, so. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Is that okay, John? Does that give you enough time? Heather, does that give you enough time?
Well,
Sooner the better, we realize that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we were looking to do our vote. We have to vote on the budget. We haven't
Yeah.
voted on this budget yet. We were planning on doing a budget hearing next week, which we can do. We don't have to reschedule a different budget hearing if we make adjustments to the budget. This is the budget
Right.
that we're recommending. And I think we're looking at our April school committee meeting, which is, I want to say April 12th off the top of my head.
That sounds
I'm
right.
not positive. To take a vote, so that, and
I would I would assume by April 12th, we would be able to
Have all
let
the
you know.
numbers.
We will have all the numbers.
okay. And then I don't know if there's any question about Smith Vocational before I leave.
I just saw that FY18 rate,
I do not have the.
so you just don't know.
We called over there again today. They don't know yet. They haven't set their rates. The rate is actually set by the state.
Oh.
Yeah, and so they don't know what they can charge.
Does it frequently go up a lot or a little, or?
My recollection, I think last year is it may have gone up $500 per student last year.
No, but that.
That's a chunk.
That's a chunk.
And you just take a guess as to how many students you're
Well,
gonna lose.
19?
Not
know how many-
lose, but are gonna move.
Well, we know how many students are going to graduate, how many
Right.
seniors they have. And we know how many students are applying, but the deadline is April 1st. So
Right.
I will give you the latest and greatest, and I'll send it to Marlene on April 2nd. And after that, they still could try to apply, but I cannot accept them.
Yeah.
So if they want to appeal, I don't know, we haven't discussed what happens. The other thing that may always happen is if a student is already attending, which has actually happened to us this year, is attending and just happens to move into town, there's not a move-in law that protects us. We are responsible
You are
to
responsible.
assume that
That tuition.
And, it could, same thing, we could have a Hatfield student move. That's
Right.
happened before too, and then there's,
Right.
so, what comes around goes around
Yeah.
in that regard. But, and then transportation, we have factored in a small percentage increase, and that's something that we negotiate each year. And the problem with transportation is that that's based on a fixed number of students, and if we have more students, quite a few more students, then it requires a bigger
Another
bus, and that may impact that.
Yes.
So I will keep an eye on that, and I will let Marlene know if I hear anything more on either of those two figures. But
Okay.
so that is for planning, at this point, they're not solid figures,
No,
I'm afraid.
One question, John, on that transportation, you had an experiment this year, right? You tried something, how did that work out? There was a time where you had both high school and,
We tried it for 3 days, and it worked out. There's some things that we would need to address. At this juncture, the committee, we haven't discussed it in great length, but I don't foresee that we're looking at any changes next year. Primarily, we have one more year left on our bus contract. But we are going to seriously take a look at perhaps combining those routes when we take it out to bid next time around, primarily if we're talking about trying to save some money. One of the things that we've looked at is that we need to do some tweaking to the current route structure before we can do that again. The route structures are designed for two-tiered, and so to make it one tier, we would have to change some of the routes around. And that may mean that there are currently some people that are riding the bus now that may not be able to. So it's really a discussion the school committee needs to take a serious time to consider before any big changes are made. So we would take at least a year before we would make, it wouldn't be this September, it would be a year from September, if at all. Oh, yeah, so. Did I speak?
Thank you.
Heather, is that pretty much
I
correct?
really appreciate the presentation, being
Yes.
new to the committee, this, being walked through this in such great detail is very helpful. Thank you.
John, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you both. The voc ed is another good reason why we should always leave a comfortable amount of
Yeah.
money in our levy limit, because it gives us a little bit of flexibility once fall time comes around,
Right,
so to speak.
so to speak.
Very helpful.
Great. Yeah, they did a good job. All right, Phil, DPW Director. Phil Genovese is,
This is somebody.
we had to cut him short last week because we ran out of time and had people in queue ready to offer their budget proposal. So I apologize again, Phil, but thanks for rescheduling for this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I think there were a couple of individual sheets, but other than that, we're still using the same packet from last week. Is that correct, from a budget perspective?
I think it's just one change
Yeah.
plus the tree warden, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is must be what he gave us the other day. It looks like he made changes to it.
Yeah, the yellow.
The yellow is the correct one.
Yes, for some reason, the tree warden wasn't in the packet.
Right.
It's on the spreadsheet, but it was, the individual sheet wasn't in. So again, the budget's level funded. The only increase is in the contractual salaries for the union employees. And also, I did increase the transfer station budget back to what it was, because last year it took a $4,000 cut for some reason. We did have a little discussion with a couple of the finance team members, and I'm hoping that a lot of this was clarified through that meeting that we had, as far as the expenses and what's applied to what.
So one of the, can I just say that? So one of the things I spent Saturday afternoon doing, because I have such interesting things going on in my life, is reviewing the printout that Derek sent along of all the expenditures that have been coded to DPW accounts. And it was fascinating, actually. And I'm not even being sarcastic, it really was. It was actually quite interesting. And so what I basically, the conclusion I came to is that the total expense budget for each of the individual areas that Phil supervises has indeed been matched to last year's expenditures. And so what was confusing me last week when we met with Phil was all the little details up above the total on each page. It was like, well, why is this $1,000 and why did this go up and why did this go down, and yeah, we got kind of mired in all of that. And so I think what was helpful to understand is there are certainly a lot of areas in the DPW where expenses are not always predictable. If we have a lot of snowstorms, if we have a lot of things breaking, if we have, things happen, as they say. And so it's hard to nail down a lot of these expenses. And the only thing that I asked Phil about was, are there relatively predictable expenses that go on year after year that we could look at reducing? are there such things? And so, for instance, we just listened to John from the school talk about some regular expenses he faces, like the busing contract. And if he gets pushed into a corner, he might try to go about renegotiating that busing contract. And so that was really the conversation that I had with Phil was, are there things you have in mind that if we needed to find a place to save money, that you would be able to go back and try to reduce some of the costs that are predictable? So that's what we talked about. Anyway, so after that, I end up having many fewer questions about each of these individual entries on these pages. But I'm
We
just
can,
speaking
we
for
can
myself.
talk a little bit about what we did in the transfer station, just as an example. If you look at the 18 budget, there's $30,000 in utilities. And when we were looking at that,
I'm sorry, Darryl.
No,
excuse
go
me. So
ahead.
that was a handout tonight, I think, right?
That's a handout tonight.
Yes.
Just if anyone's looking for, if anyone, oh, okay, sorry.
And so, once we sat down with Phil and we looked at it,
Does anyone have copies of those handouts?
I don't have an extra set,
No.
no.
I don't have an extra set.
Maybe someone can make one?
Yeah, run down the copy.
Yeah.
Well, it's the working budget, so.
Yeah,
I
so,
mean, whatever.
so anyway, so what we ended up doing is, in some of that budget, in some of what was utilities last year, what was getting paid out was some of the Wickles trucking and some of the
Amherst trucking.
Amherst trucking, some of the hauling. And so what Phil did is he made sure the utilities were in fact just utilities, and he moved the remainder of that into the professional services, which is Amherst trucking,
Solid waste
Wickles,
and-
solid waste, and Clean Harbor, some of that stuff. So, anyway,
But that was the only.
that was, yeah. Again, it just shuffled money around.
Same budget,
Same budget.
Exactly,
different line.
exactly.
Right. So do you want to go through this top to bottom? You want to start with transfer station?
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do, that's fine.
Does anybody else have any other questions about transfer?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Phil and I were going to talk in a couple days, because I just had the requests, and you said you put more in there. Is that money that is going into the transfer station budget already spoken for? You said it was increased to 4,000 again?
4,000, yeah.
Yeah, is
I
that
mean,
money?
We took a hard look at our numbers, and,
Yeah.
that is exactly what the budget needs.
Okay,
I mean, don't forget that the transfer station is just about self-sufficient with between the sticker price, the sticker charges, and people coming up there and dumping the trash. It's pretty much self-sufficient. It's close. It's close to the 54,000 that we take in.
okay. Only because I was just approached the other day, before this came by the workers up there, and they'd really like a sink and a toilet up there.
And we have just extended the sewer
And
line to
I know,
do
I
that,
talked to
so-
Garrett, and he said it was there,
Yeah,
they could
it's
probably get
there,
themselves.
you know.
And then one of them also mentioned, Vinnie, that was from Dave, and then Vinnie had mentioned that the roof was really
Yeah, I mean,
ready to go.
is-
So I didn't know if that 4,000 was
Is
spoken
it
for.
on the
if it might be-
horizon? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, yeah, because I think they really need the sink and toilet there.
Yeah,
They have a porta potty up there now,
Yes.
don't they?
yes.
Well, yeah, but you know what their concern was really this year? A lot of it was the flu, and they're helping people do all this stuff, and they're taking their trash and, it's still in their gloves and everything else, so it's supposed to wash up.
Well, yeah. And it's just one of those things where a
Right.
transfer station, kind of the goal, at least my goal, is what we take in and what we give out, we want to be pretty much flat. And this is a way to figure out where Phil can sit down and say, you know what, our trucking has gone up, some of these costs have gone up, we're going to have to increase the price of stickers, right? And so we've got to be able to.
Well, that's why I want to throw that and ask if that 4,000 was already spoken for, the increase.
And the other, our discussion the other day was that one of the biggest costs now between the trees and the transfer station, because of the recyclables, is the brush intake.
Yeah.
We let the people bring the brush in for free. It costs $10,000 a year to grind it. So, I mean, it's a big expense. And it's something that someone's gonna have to take a hard look at and make a hard decision. I mean, either to
Right.
charge for it or to just shut it off.
Right.
I know some towns don't do it anymore.
No.
What's the machine that grinds it?
What's that?
What is the machine that?
It's a grinder.
Yeah,
It's a
big
tub
tub
grinder.
grinder.
And it's big.
Yeah.
Who's bearing that?
And I will say, in defense of having a place to put brush, you know, because we're a farmer and we have land, people will bring it to the town, which I appreciate, because otherwise I go out in my field and see that someone's decided to dump their leaves or dump their, you know, so I very much appreciate having a place where things get
I mean,
dumped.
it's just a
Yeah.
matter of the cost. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
I'd hate to
I
get
mean, we
rid of
have no
that.
problem doing what we do, it's just a matter of paying the tub grinder.
'Cause it's the same thing with Kellogg Hill Road. Sometimes the road's entirely blocked with leaves, people dumping everything else up there.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we don't offer trash pickup or anything like that, so it's at least nice that people can bring it.
Bring
You're
it
not asking
there.
for a service to
And
come out.
especially the leaves, I mean, the
so.
leaves, you know, shouldn't be an issue because we do take them and we do have a compost pile that we have, so.
And as Phil pointed out to us the other day, Hatfield residents can go and take the compost for their gardens, so.
Okay.
Streetlights. That's what I have next, but.
Mine are completely different.
So that's just electricity.
Yeah, that's just for the streetlights.
Phil, do you know the last time that the type of lighting provided was?
2 years
done?
ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago, they went through and they changed all the bulbs out.
Great.
You know, and did a whole inventory and, because there were some lights in the old, you know, I asked Eversource to do that. And, because there were some things that were being charged that weren't even there, you know,
Yeah.
so,
Good.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, right.
All right.
What do you have next, Daryl? We're following your lead.
I've got fuel, DPW fuel.
Fuel is under contract through HCOG,
And it's actually a decrease. Well, no, the bottom line is the same, but
The bottom line is this.
but we still buy our fuel through the HCOG. It's generally
And
the
it's-
best.
And it's a contract price. It's not like we go there every day and it's a different price.
no, we were on a fixed price.
For better,
Exactly,
for better or worse.
Better or worse.
And one thing Phil did point out to us the other day that we should keep in mind is they've got a leak at one of the tanks up
I mean,
at.
if you want to discuss that, because I know it's on, it's on a few pages down.
Oh, okay,
On
then
the
we'll wait till we
agenda.
get to it.
Well, I mean, you can discuss it now. I'll just give you an update because I updated the board that we do have, there's a problem with the diesel tank up at the highway garage. There's water getting in the tank. My thoughts, is the tank breached? I don't know. And the reason I'm saying that is because nothing's leaking out of the tank. It's only incoming. So what we did is we went out and we got a bunch of quotes, to replace the tanks. We're gonna go with an above-ground tank if that's the case. But right now, we have two companies that are gonna come in and give us a quote to pressure test that tank to see where it's leaking, because it might be in, the filler tube.
Right,
That's where it might be.
yeah.
And the water's just going, from the rainwater's going in there, so we'll see. But it's still preliminary, but, I just wanted to keep everybody abreast of what's going on up there.
Well, yeah, it's good for us
Because
to
we
know.
did go to DEP, and if the tank was underneath the highway garage, underneath a structure, we could flowable fill it, pump it, flowable fill it. But since it's sitting out by itself, we have to manually
Dig it up.
dig it up.
Take it away.
So, and you never know what's gonna happen there, if there's contaminated soils or, so hopefully.
I'm sorry, when do we think that they're gonna do the
Within the next
pressure
couple
test?
weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we do have that above-ground
We have an
tank for
above-ground
fuel.
temporary tank set up, 500-gallon tank above ground that we can get our fuel from, so.
Right.
Thank you for the update.
Vehicle lease is what I have next. And
Same as last year.
Same as last year.
thing, yeah, you can talk about,
Yeah, I mean, this year, one of the leases is up this year, and it's a smaller sided lease. I know that there's been a few requests, and as people have to understand that there's like 85 vehicles within the town that we maintain, and it's a priority system. So I know the police have come in with a request for 2 cruisers, so that just about eats up the whole lease package for this time around. The second lease will be a bigger lease, you know, we'll surely include, you know, the COA I know is looking, and some other, the fire maybe, but it's worked out well. I mean, we've cut the budget since I've been here 9 years ago. The budget for vehicle maintenance repairs was 90,000, and today it's 60, so it's helping, it's helping.
Right.
Is there some sort of, with this program, is there some sort of option to purchase?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just explain that a little bit. We have a 5-year lease program, and at the end of the lease program, the town owns the vehicle.
Better
It's not like you
than
turn it back in,
Yeah.
you know, so,
So essentially, it's rent to own.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like a, you know, a 5-year car payment and you own it, it's just about the same thing, you know?
Right. Okay. Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Should we go to vehicle maintenance,
Yes.
How about that?
Vehicle maintenance.
which has gone down in the last 9 years?
Right.
Almost 90,000, and now it's down to 60. You know, like I said, we maintain every single vehicle within the town, so school, fire, police, ambulance, highway, anything. Mowers, lawn mowers, everything.
Front
So
loaders?
Yep.
anything.
Everything.
Everything that the town owns, we maintain.
You don't outsource anything?
What's that?
You
Yes, we
outsource-
outsource some things, yes.
What's
Not
the cost
much.
of that a year?
I don't have it in front of me. The only thing whether we really outsource is like something that's like the new computer system, like in a truck, you know? So we just don't
Some
have.
of the fire department, the
Yeah.
ambulance, it
Right,
gets a little tricky.
Yeah, we don't,
That's big dollars. Do you know what that cost is?
I don't,
It's part of this budget, though.
yeah.
It's part of this budget. It's all within the budget.
It's part of the
But do
60.
you have a budget that in case, say, a fire truck computer goes down, you know, these big utility vehicles, is there something that's in place that will take care of that?
It's within the budget,
Within
yes.
this,
Yes.
within-
It's not a
within
separate
this
line
budget.
item, if that's what you're asking. It's
Yeah.
not a separate line item.
Okay.
It's just in vehicle maintenance, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Okay. Wastewater, what I have next. Yeah.
Enterprise fund, we're finally, should I do it? Doing well as far as our enterprise fund. We, you know, after our discussion, you know, Betsy brought up a good point to start looking at some other things. She did ask about waste management, and today we did, you know, that we have a new, you know, we eliminated the wastewater superintendent position, and we've hired a lead operator down there, and he comes from a good background, Turner's and Northfield. He has a grade 6 license, knows the business, been in the business for 10 years, knows people. So we took a hard look at it after our conversation, and we're renegotiating with another company to come in, so.
That's the question.
Yep, so, I mean, I think we can cut the costs significantly as far as the grit, you know, that was to remove the grit, so.
Awesome.
Great. And then we got wastewater employees, that's pretty much.
I still.
Oh, yeah, you had questions, go.
Just the, and we've asked it in previous years, the 10,000 other expense, what does that typically go to? On the wastewater. Other 17,000 last year, it's 10,000.
Well, let me just.
Probably the inspections were part of it, I'm guessing, only because that amount.
They pulled that to a separate line item.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean? I think it
Yes.
probably covered things like inspections.
So Sean, just from my own perusing,
Yep.
sludge removal last year was $30,000. So that's not a line item because there is no line for sludge removal on this page.
Right.
We paid 11,800 for lab tests, 7,200 for lab supplies, and 3,500 for chemicals, and $9,100 for grit removal. So, as you can see, that it's not listed anywhere. So I'm guessing, I mean, I know that if you add all this up, it adds up to a very similar number.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not delineated that way.
So there's no specific intention for other than to cover anything that.
Exactly.
You know, existing costs.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, and I had a conversation with Marlene this past week about, you know, the way this is set up. So maybe, like, next year, some of this can change, where we can list that, you know, sludge removal and have a line, you know, so
Right,
everybody can see it, physically see it.
because that's something that's gonna be ongoing.
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, now that we have a good itemized budget, we can do that, now that it's being tracked that way.
Right.
I think we're gonna review budget form, so in the
Yes.
course of this year. So
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because, you know, I'm kind of with you. The whole other thing, I know my accountant does not allow me to put things in other, and so, so. All right, any other questions?
Mike?
That's a question. The sewer expenses that we're talking about at this point, are these 100% dedicated to the enterprise fund?
Yes,
Okay, and how, are there any other direct or indirect expenses?
not an expense. And there's indirect, there will be indirect costs.
Your pay, for example?
Yes, that comes out of that, yes.
Out of the enterprise fund?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%?
No,
No.
No, that's what I meant.
it's broken up,
I know there was
partially,
an issue a couple of years
Well,
ago.
partially from water, partially from sewer, and then regular budget.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, right now, the enterprise fund is covering salaries and expenses,
Right.
and indirect costs, yes.
Right,
Yes,
but Phil's
I moved out of
expenses
there.
are out of there now, right?
Correct.
Didn't we do
Yes.
that a couple of years ago to
Yes.
try to help out the
Funded
enterprise
solely
fund?
through
Yes.
taxation.
And
Yeah.
Right,
ask the
Yes.
town to pay for more?
right, taxation.
More of it through taxation?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Goes either way. Okay.
The employees, the wastewater and water, I guess, or is that what we're on that?
Yeah, wastewater employees, that's just
The
their,
names have changed.
Right. Okay.
oh,
I can give you the updated sheet. We just hired Eric Meals, like I said, from Turner, so.
who retired?
Brian.
Brian retired.
McGrath, yes.
Wow, he's my age, that's not, no,
And
you
do we
can't.
hire him at a different rate?
Yes, $1 an hour less. And we moved Kenny up $1 an hour more because Kenny took on more responsibilities now. So, I mean, the money's the same, it's just that they're getting
Money's the
different pay.
Okay.
And that was approved through the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Water, that we have?
Yep,
Regular?
water.
Yep.
And this is the expense side,
It's level funded.
level funded. Any questions on the water side?
The only thing I think I forgot, we started the conversation, I think I forgot my question at the time, was I had asked in FY 17.
17.
We had spent $29,000 on water meters, and you said we're about done with that.
Yes, the water meters are complete.
Right. So is that $29,083 that we spent on water heaters still getting carried forward every budget year?
Water meters, you
My
mean?
meters, I'm sorry.
We actually appropriated a separate line item for water
Okay, so
meters
that's
on
not in
those
here.
years. That was not part, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
That's that, as I remember it, that's what we did.
Great, so that's not in here. Just wanted to make sure that we weren't just carrying that forward without
Right.
actually buying water meters anymore. Okay.
Yeah,
Chris, you had a question? Oh,
okay. Then we got water salaries. That's a little bit up, but that's just contract.
That's contract.
yep, okay.
They were in the last year of their contract, so we're renegotiating
Right,
this next round.
right.
Okay.
And we're up to cemetery. Oh, did Chris, sorry, Chris and Mike.
Contracts, water contracts for water employees. Does that involve having town vehicles leave the town to residents?
Yes,
outside of town?
one.
One. So, just insurance purposes, what happens when something goes wrong with that vehicle? Just for whatever reason, how does the town take care of the insurance on that?
I mean, the town vehicle's covered through insurance.
Like any of our other town vehicles.
Right.
I mean, I guess the only
If it's
question,
not- If it's used for personal.
No personal use.
No
No
personal
personal
use.
use? No. Okay, thank you.
To and from home.
Right.
Thank you.
to and from home,
Correct.
that's specifically identified in the contract. Okay. Okay, that's important. some people, I know at my job, they consider to and from home personal, even if you had to bring it home for some reason. But
Considered as income from the IRS standpoint.
Right.
Anyway,
Mike?
And it is anyways, we are taxed
They
for
get
vehicles.
a form.
who is gonna deal with, or when are we gonna deal with the income side of the enterprise funds? I.e. the rates? I remember last year, the finance committee was dealing with the board of selectmen and saying that, hey, we have some sort of understanding that we're going to at least increase water and sewer fees by a certain percent each year. We don't want to get into that issue where all of a sudden, we're in this huge deficit. So I guess that's my question, is who's going to deal with the income side?
I
as
will,
opposed to the expense side?
Can I just?
Go ahead,
The
please.
Board of Selectmen voted a few years ago that there's an automatic 2% increase per year for water and
I
sewer.
think that was last year.
And for what? No. And for what reason?
For water and sewer.
I mean, water and sewer is supposed to be self-sufficient as far as things go.
But it's
supposed to be a profit situation. It's
Right.
supposed to be.
But don't forget that
The problem is we're not self-sufficient.
never will be.
You just told me that it was level budget. So level budget to me is that your money coming in is taking care of what your budget is.
No, yeah, and the problem is what you're not seeing is the capital expenses, all the money we put into essentially rebuilding the sewer plant, all the money we've put in on the water side of it. At times, we would like to think that we're gonna pay for those loans out of the enterprise funds, but there's simply not enough money in there to do that. So it gets paid out of the town fund.
The whole DPW, the whole thing.
No, the whole town. Everybody pays.
I mean, there has been a few smaller capital projects that we have paid out of the enterprise.
Right.
Like the sand filters. We took care of that. It was a $40,000 item. That was paid out of the,
Right.
was paid out.
But
of the
most of the
enterprise
big
funds.
ones.
No, you'll never
yeah.
pay, you'll never
And
pay
we're
the
still
loan.
not covering any.
And our rates, as well, our rates are probably fairly comparable to surrounding towns.
You know, and
So
the
if
whole,
things don't go right, or it doesn't come out of everything, then taxation takes care of
Right.
this.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
unfortunately.
and you know, and it's weather driven, as you
It's
well
not
know.
weather-driven, so.
It's
Don't
weather
tell me-
driven.
don't tell me-
The revenues are weather driven. If you have a wet season, you're not getting the revenues.
Yeah.
Till-
Yes.
Well, and.
Okay, let's bring it back, guys.
Yep, okay.
So I guess.
When it rains, you don't need to water your grass, therefore you don't have those incomes coming in. That's the bottom line. When it's,
The agreed upon 2% rate increase for this coming year, is that something the finance committee will do in conjunction with the board of selectmen?
It's
Will
the
we-
selectmen set the rates, and if that's what they've set, then I assume that we will just simply plug
Plug that 2%.
that number in. But it's hard making that estimate, is this year gonna be wet, is this year gonna be dry? You just never know what that number's gonna be.
Cemetery.
Cemetery,
Mower every other year.
yep. Any questions? And then employees that do the actual stuff is next line item. DPW expense,
That's just for the office.
yeah,
level funded.
level funded. And then highway. Again, level funded.
Yep. Wages are due to the contractual agreement.
Yeah, wages on the next page. Yeah. Okay. Public building maintenance, which is essentially the town hall and the emergency services buildings behind,
Correct.
correct?
As far as utilities.
As far as utilities, what about the
Repairs.
cleaning? Repairs.
And if another public building needs a big repair, they might be going into that as a public building,
Right,
you know? I mean, we've replaced the hot water tank at the highway garage, say,
Right,
and that came out of there.
right. Yep,
Can I ask a question about this? Back again in 2017, we paid $7,000 out of this budget for an architect, and I didn't live here then, so does anybody remember what the architect did?
Stairs?
or the town hall project.
And the only reason I'm asking is that continuing in the budget? Are we still,
Well, we always have professional services for that type of stuff, like the stairs, we hired Berkshire Design to design the stairs out of that.
okay.
You
So
know,
you,
instead of
you're-
taking out of the article.
okay, so you're anticipating some similar kind of,
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's minor, sometimes it's more than,
okay.
you know.
In a lot of ways, it's clear your budget is, you're just coming up with the overall number and seeing what happens during the year and spending the money as you need to, other than separating wages and expenses.
Correct, correct. Because some things you just can't predict. you know.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I
just
think
can't
the
predict
forms
it.
lead to that. We
Yeah.
need to look at the forms and the systems.
You know.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, I think like maybe, you know, the energy costs or, you know, something that's, you can really identify that, but as far as like hiring a professional service to come in, you know, it might be a professional mechanical engineer to come in and look at the heat, we don't know that.
Right.
We don't know that until something fails, that's when you know. Right.
Okay.
So Phil, what's the proposed overall increase to the DPW budget?
It's level funded. Level.
The only increase is,
What is the budget on that?
the only thing is that contractual salary.
The overall, hang on.
Well, we'll get to that. Let's get through
Yep.
these. So the next, public buildings, this is employees, this pays essentially the guy that plows snow, that shovels snow here at town hall.
Or helps with the elections, or helps if something has to be
Right.
moved in offices moves.
Next, we've got the infamous snow and ice budget. And I guess we should,
It's snowing tomorrow, by the way.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
No
It's gonna
snow.
cost a fortune.
Okay.
That means there'll be a deficit, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, straight time.
so what you have in here is $31,000 snow and ice. Aren't we supposed to increase that at least some every year?
Yes, we talked
Not
about that.
supposed to, but we were talking about going 45.
We talked about bumping that up at the
Last
last
week.
meeting.
So the
That was
snow
the
and ice,
deficit we-
snow and ice including the wages is 43,000, right?
Yes.
So that's the number we should.
Oh, you're right. Thank you, Brian.
It's okay.
It's the two together.
Right.
So 43, and we talked about moving that to 45.
Correct.
Deficit of 45.
How much?
No, the allocation to 45.
The allocation.
You talking about on the state charges?
No,
No. On the
The-
Oh, you're talking about the
budget.
budget.
The actual budget,
But
yeah.
what you increased to 45 last week was the projected deficit, snow and ice deficit.
No,
No.
we don't know, no. It
We
was,
don't know
it was
what the
to,
deficit
it was
is.
to raise the
You didn't
the amount.
realize you
about
updated
this
that number
book.
last week based on
Yeah,
that
we can't
discussion.
raise, right.
Yeah, we're talking about fiscal year 19, snow and ice.
Okay, so last week when we addressed the state and other charges, I had 102,000 in there for snow and ice deficit, and everybody agreed to change that to 45.
I think we were talking about this.
Right. When Daryl just said about increasing to 45, I thought you were referring to this.
Right, but, right.
Well, I think I think that's where it ends up, but we're
That's
talking
where it
about
ends up, but
on a,
It's between the expense side and
the wages side.
And the wages side. So we just have to add $2,000 or whatever we're adding.
why don't we add 1,000 to each?
Phil, can you remind me how much
Line,
we spent
is
so
that
far
good?
this year?
I don't even know if I have it.
Is it around, what, 80-something thousand?
No, it's right here.
Well, the current
Actually,
deficit is 60,000.
We have it
And your operating budget for this year is 40, right, or 43? Plus the, yeah, and then we have a $60,000 deficit as of last week.
Right.
around 100,000 right now. Massive storm coming tomorrow, so it's gonna be significantly more. I mean, I understand, I understand the budget trick that's allowed here. I just think for long-term, financial management, it's just kind of a silly trick to be like, well, because we're allowed to spend deficit, and so we don't have to then really manage our levy limit, because we're allowed to spend in deficit, we will. And really, that's really just a way to bypass Proposition 2.5. That's all it is. And so it just seems a little uncomfortable for me to budget in a way that you're going to be a third, at least, maybe even a fourth of what you're actually going to spend.
So my question back would be, so if we do it to 100,000, just say that, so we're adding 60, you're adding 60,000 to it. Where are we taking that money from?
And that's the thing. We're delaying.
What budget are we taking it from?
We're delaying the hard conversation.
Like 300 other cities and towns in Massachusetts do.
Okay.
Not saying it's right or, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We're not unique. Right.
Right.
You have to raise.
But if we do it now, where are we gonna find the $60,000?
You put it in now, and if you don't spend it, then you bring
Then
it back.
if you don't spend it, it falls to free cash.
Excellent.
No.
That's perfect.
No.
I mean,
Absolutely.
free cash.
At some point, the money needs to be paid, really. I just think it's.
We
to me,
always
it's
pay the bill.
Yeah, to me, it's the difference. We're talking such a huge, if we're allocating 45, and this year, we've already, in a low snow year, already spent 100, likely to spend a lot more tomorrow. Many years will be at 150,000 over. It's just long-term not sustainable. That's my concern. It's just no one wants to have the hard conversation.
It is a hard
It
conversation.
is sustainable because you pay that money the following year, you have to raise that money out of that deficit, you have to raise it out of taxation.
Yes.
Okay, so what you're doing, it's a timing issue. I think your point is, why are we budgeting $30,000 for something that we know is gonna cost $125,000?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And that's more of an accounting issue, but we are paying for that. We're raising taxes the following year to pay for that deficit that we incurred the previous year. And we've been doing that for
Ever.
years. So it's just that we never really know how much that deficit is until.
And in some ways, it's pretty accurate, right?
Because every year.
You know exactly what the
Yeah,
cost
You know
is
exactly what the
when
bill
winter
is,
ends.
And we pay the bill.
So
And the
then
state
if that's
allows
the
you to do
case-
that
So if that's the
because
case,
you can't
then
predict it.
if we know exactly what the bill is and we pay the bill, then why don't we put that in our budget, what the bill is gonna be? We know
Well,
exactly
when I
what-
say exactly, I mean, we'll know next year when this season ends what it exactly was this year, but that's not gonna be the exact amount next year or last year, you know what I mean?
So far over budget last year.
Last year, you have to remember, last year was our mistake.
Okay.
It was not that, every other year we've done it right. We messed up last year, admittedly so.
Yes. I mean, I get where you're coming from until the day when we can't increase to pay for it, which could be, not that far down the line, one big sort of tragic accident, then we're in trouble. I mean, and so I guess what I'm saying is, at some point, the bill could come due when we're really looking at having to do a Proposition 2.5 override and can't get the support.
And I agree, and just devil's advocate, or we take the 100,000 this year, and then the schools come in when we tell them to cut their budget, and they need a 2.5 override, right? For me personally, I'd rather, if allowed to do so by law, to deficit spend, then next year, when the final bill comes in and we know exactly what it is, we'll pay it. And it's the exact amount.
Because it was such a bad winter, the state lets you carry the deficit for 2 years. They let you do that by law, because it was so big, because it was such a bad winter.
And I may be mistaken, but isn't there also something for
Yes.
emergency circumstances that if you haven't expended your
Like
entire
tomorrow,
budget?
If the governor declares a state of emergency and you get FEMA funding, if you have money left in your budget, you're the last one on the
Use
total.
that money first.
Correct, correct.
Right.
Well, and not being able to go back.
I'm sorry?
If we project this out to 100, next year we have to have it at 100, is that?
Yes, you can't go back.
For
Right, you can't go
101,
back.
or what, yeah, you can't go back.
You can only go up.
Right, that's a good point, too.
Well,
Also
huge
free
point.
cash, right?
Well, yeah, but we don't necessarily, I mean, free cash is, I mean,
Unless you allocate it to projects.
yeah, it's a loose term. And I think the other lesson learned from this past year is in knowing all this, at the end, when we have our budget, we will make sure that we are at least a couple $100,000 under the levy limit, so we don't run into a problem like that.
That's a reasonable solution to me,
Yeah.
being tens of thousands of dollars under. That's where the problem comes with this idea, but yes, if we're a couple $100,000 under, then it makes sense.
Right.
All right.
If we can, that's, okay. Snow and ice, and then we had snow and ice wages. Okay.
Oh, we
I am
already did
back to transfer station.
That's the old one, right?
That's, no, this is the new
I don't
one.
have a tree. Did you say there's a tree?
Oh, the tree budget.
I don't,
Where'd it go?
The tree budget didn't go through.
I don't have a tree. I don't have a tree budget.
I was gonna ask you a question on that. There used to be two funds, I believe. There was the tree budget, and there was also the tree canopy fund that somebody asked for a couple of years ago. It was the 100 Main Street residents they had asked, and that was approved also. So are there,
The tree canopy fund is under the
That-
CPA.
Tree warden, there it is.
so is there two funds for trees or one?
Yes,
They just handed it out.
well, there's not really two funds, but we went to community preservation and asked for money for replanting of trees, which they gave us. And there's still $6,000 left in that. So some of the trees that we took down, but the other budget is just for the maintenance of the trees.
And
The tree
that
warden's
all
budget.
happened that year that we had so severely devastated the tree budget that all of a sudden we had trees falling down everywhere that needed to be taken down, where we appropriated money through a capital fund, we went to community preservation, and we increased the tree warden budget in order to catch back up. Right? Am I remembering that right?
Yes, because CPA did put some money in for trimming, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, trimming.
You
and
don't.
planting.
Oh, look.
Do we have tree warden budgets
I
anywhere?
don't think so.
It wasn't in the package.
No, it was handed out tonight. Look at,
You just got the transfer station tonight.
We got many transfer
Alright.
stations.
I had
Transfer and
transfer
accounting.
station,
And
yeah.
IT.
Here, I have a couple.
Oh, wait, here, maybe, no, IT? No, I don't have it.
Can you give one to Phil and one to Sean
Yeah, I could use one.
or Marlene?
I can get one from you tomorrow.
I mean, I have some.
it's the same
The board, does the board have,
36.
Well,
gonna
I'm
share
guessing it's
that?
not a
Yeah.
Is there
huge,
just one? I'll pass it down to you. I'll
Yeah.
just look at it and I'll pass it down for
is it level
everybody.
funded, Cindy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it did increase.
good.
It doesn't need to-
right.
Did you say-
And
Did you say it did increase?
No, it's level.
I'm increasing it.
If you want to see this, Ed.
And it's about $1,000 every time we have to take a tree down, give or take.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
You know, and another part of that budget since I've been here is that we're grinding stumps. I mean, when I came here, I think there was like 58 stumps we had to grind, so. That's one thing that bothers me, is that if we take down a tree, I want the stump ground, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't come back on the one I was, and then 18 months later, I paid $100 to grind it myself, so the town never came back even after 4 requests, so.
All right. Any other questions for Phil?
Nothing?
No, thanks, Phil.
Wait, one last one.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to give thought to what we talked about last time in regards to if you have to, because this is one of the larger budgets, save 1%, 5%, something like that, where would that come from? 1%? Whatever percent
I'm sure
it
we
is.
can, I'm sure we can look at the budget. I mean, if it comes down to that, where we have to do something, I'm sure that, we can make some decisions to help.
Yeah, because I mean, if we gotta look at the school and trying to get them some of what they're looking for, we might need a few dollars from something else, so.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Phil.
Thanks.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Yeah, good luck to the guys. I'm sure they'll do another,
Repeat after me, it is not going to snow.
I'm sure they'll do their usual super job.
Just trying it.
Okay, all set? Bring up Derek.
Are we Derek now?
Town accountant. The Gazer. Sorry, we're running a little late. Sorry about
We
that.
understand.
Do you mind if, before we talk about the budget, if I can ask you how you're coming on the reconciliation?
Yes, actually, Brian, I apologize, I'm gonna get back to you on that.
all right.
You had asked for specifically. So basically, what we're doing now is, I'm just going through the unapplied revenue and basically journalizing it.
Yep.
I've asked for some of the information from the treasurer's office, and they're trying to get back on their feet. So while they're doing that, I'm just journalizing. I'm about almost all the way through December.
And will the auditor accept that journaling?
Oh, I still need the source documents before I can book it, so I still need the information from the treasurer's office.
Okay.
Some of the information we can get pretty easily. Some of it might be a little more difficult, where might have to have Justin or an auditor come in and take a look at something to allow me to book a journal entry.
Okay.
If we can't figure out all the source documents or what was going on with the transaction.
How much, if you're through December, how much of that unapplied revenue have you been able to book? We started at what, 800,000?
July's, some of the August, I can tell you off the top of my head, I'm just looking for, there was a double entry for interest. Just have to pay.
But where are we now? Where's that number now?
What's the dollar amount?
Where's the
that's
dollar
not
now?
been-
It's
not been applied.
It's only been July has been booked. I have all the stuff written, I still need to have the source document to staple to the journal entry, and I don't have the source documents yet.
And who's working on finding those?
Well, the treasurer's office is getting back on their feet.
So you're expecting the treasurer's office to provide that?
We have to work on that as far as they need to, when I was working with the previous treasurer, she knew exactly what the transactions were and what I was looking for. Right now, it's, we kind of have to start at the beginning and get them caught up on the bank recs that were done so that they can prove out, they're gonna have, somebody new is gonna have to say, okay, yes, remove this. But they need to see that it was, double booking of interest.
Payroll is now off your table, off your plate?
No, accounts
payable.
AP.
AP, that's we're actually discussing that tomorrow morning, how that transition is gonna go into play.
We have a conference call with Justin Cole tomorrow.
Gotcha. So that hasn't freed you up yet?
Not yet, but I'm hoping that very shortly it will. So we're, trying to get AP positions so that, at a moment's notice, we just flip it over.
Excellent.
So Derek, quick question. You're journalizing at this point. You've journalized July and part of August. How much money have you journalized? You haven't booked it yet. But
Around 50,000. July has been booked.
50 grand out of the 800,000?
Correct. But like I said, I don't know how much is in August, but I'm looking for a bank adjustment of 1844. Just need some information on that and 84 cents. So the rest of it's ready to be booked.
Okay. Thank you for updating us on that. So let's, budget?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm sure Justin's gonna be looking for where we stand on each month, and I was trying to get to that today. I didn't get to it, but I will go through month by month, send out a spreadsheet. It'd be the unapplied spreadsheet, so you guys will see exactly what each month holds and where I stand with each month.
Okay. Well,
Try and get to
and
that
I
as soon as I
appreciate
can.
the emails, letting us know, where things stand. I appreciate that, so. Okay, looks like the expense side, you're at level funding.
Yep.
Any questions on that?
How's that Tyler system coming along?
As far as
Like implementation or how that's working?
How it's
I guess?
functioning and interfacing with the schools and all that.
unfortunately, the ball was dropped there. Tyler ended up doing all the training and getting everything set up for the school up there. And the last I spoke to them, we were supposed to put a test file together so that when they enter all their invoices, I just need the invoices and the digital file. They went over budget, and evidently the technician that was working with them and kind of me just left. Nobody got back to me as far as they were done up there. The last I heard was supposed to be a test file, so you don't want to run this stuff live. And they never got back to me, so.
So who's they? Tyler never got back to you?
Right, Tyler was, the technician that was working with
Right.
Brenda up there.
Right.
They had called me up a few times because they wanted to make sure that we had the same vendor database. And I'm like, okay, when you guys are ready and you're done up here, let's get together, we'll do a test file, and that should be the end. They just never got back to me as far as the test file.
Have we reached back out to Brenda or the superintendent or someone to say, hey, what's the deal and what's the story? And nobody ever got back to me. I mean, the whole idea of the schools going that way was to interface with the system here at Town Hall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. I did speak quickly with Brenda, and evidently, she just gave the impression that she had tried to reach out and never gotten a call back.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to make a call.
Was this recently, Derek?
Within the last week or so,
Oh,
yeah.
all right.
So I haven't had a chance to reach out, but it's on my list to at least reach out to them and see where we're at, and.
Well, I'm sure knowing Brenda, she's on it, so.
Well, I mean, if they can at least get us a digital file, because they would have had to create that. I mean, I can work with the Tyler Help Desk to figure out how to get it into our system. It's not like we need somebody on site, we just need the file. Should be
But this
much.
went over budget, so they're probably looking for more money to finish this.
That could be part of the issue. I
Right.
didn't really
What
chase the
went
issue.
over budget?
Did you just say that it went over budget?
They're
It went over,
helping
the
us.
school went over budget as far as the Tyler Help.
Okay,
Desk.
we'll get to the bottom of this tomorrow. Because this is the first I'm hearing of that as a school committee member. And we aren't going to let going over budget, if that's really what happened, stop us progressing to get this thing off the ground. So I don't want to have a conversation tonight without knowing any of the facts.
Sure.
But we'll have facts tomorrow, I can guarantee it. Okay.
And in all honesty, I didn't dig as deep as I probably could have, because I was in the middle of.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that we're all on board with exactly what the circumstances are. That's all. Okay. And school's not here to, have a conversation about it, so.
Get an update.
Yeah, we'll get an update.
Okay.
So on wages, we're looking for an assistant for your office.
Yeah, I had, Justin had talked about that,
Yep.
so I kind of just threw out
What that would cost at
Kinda what
16
that-
hours, 20 hours, or 24 hours a week.
right, and
Thank
the top three boxes have three different rates. The bottom just looks at the mid-rate, just so you can kind of compare.
Yep, it's very helpful.
So, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just, I'm gonna do my wage thing, and I'll do it quickly, is, we're looking for $14.50. Yet we're paying people $17 to work the transfer station and to mow lawns, and it's some, not, and I am not downgrading anything of what they do. They are worth every penny that they get paid to do that, so please don't
Right, that's
take
good.
that as a negative, but I look at
When we budget a new position.
when we budget a position like this, that seems low to me, but that's just my
I will agree
personal.
with you on that. Certainly, the higher the wage you advertise for, the more qualified the candidate you get.
Right.
But,
I mean,
trying to be a little fiscally responsible, I mean, if you guys want to bump it up.
Well, we have an HR policy, so first off, we should find where that
Yeah.
level
Correct.
falls in.
And let me, and it's not just for this is an overall, in our entire budget, I see this problem everywhere.
I mean, at $14.50, you're only getting someone to answer the phones and maybe direct people realistically at $14.50.
Well, it's just,
Yeah, I understand the marketplace, but I also understand the budget process, you know, you gotta have a meeting in the middle. I didn't wanna come in with
no,
a
no,
huge
no.
number, so.
And Brian's right, I'm sure there's some kind of way.
Entry levels, depending on the position, or,
And I think what Daryl is saying is we want to look at that whole,
yeah. I totally agree. I think it's hard to come up with what you're expecting to offer without knowing what the qualifications requirement are.
Right.
You know, and what you're looking for. And I would assume that Marlene and maybe Justin would be part of helping you or assisting you in putting together exactly what you think you know, what we need for assistance type thing. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this on top of or in lieu of the hours that one of the town secretaries is assisting with? I know, doesn't one of the town secretaries assist the accountant's office right now?
Yeah, I get
Up to 10
about
hours a week?
Yeah, I get about 10 hours. This would be a little more in-depth. It would substitute that. I mean, depending upon how the shift and everything's going to go through. But yeah, the AP process is really something that is where you would manage the vendor database, which controls all the W-9s, making sure we're tax classifying our vendors correctly.
So if I may, so along those lines, Derek, but the accounts payable is going to be moved over to Bay State Municipal, right? So are we still going to need a 24-hour employee to assist with that if we're not doing the work in-house anymore?
Well, this is assuming once we get to the point that Bay State is now backing off, and it was just put out for discussion, basically. I just didn't want to miss it.
No.
You know, and this may not be the year to do it now that we do have Bay State coming in, but until we have that conversation as to the length, the period, you know, what the assistance is going to be.
No, that's fine. Just looking for clarification.
Absolutely, it may not be necessary this year. Can certainly update you tomorrow after the conference call.
Right, that'd be good, thanks. Ed or Cindy, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Ed, do you have for Derek?
No, I mean, I think we gotta wait to see what Bay State does to free you up and how that plays out. It's a work in progress, so I think we just gotta keep going every month and do updates and find out how to fine tune it.
Okay.
Finance Committee, you guys have any questions?
No, thank you.
Derek, thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
While we're on the budget discussions, I want to know, is it proper for me to address the Finance Committee? I've, did you, I know you had a request to distribute those, is that?
I didn't receive this.
Okay. Would it be proper just to?
I have not, yeah, I have
I have
not
nothing
received
to really
this.
present, just that I'm on the Emergency Management Committee, and there was some discussion, but in the portion of budgets, there was a budget by the fire department last week, and at about 3:30 today, the fire chief came to see me, and he said he was going to resubmit it because he wanted to withdraw the fact about the Emergency Management Director position and not take that on. And I told him I didn't feel comfortable discussing it with him. It had to be with the whole board. But I did tell him in his budget where he put that the Emergency Management Director makes $10,500, that was wrong. And he said, yeah, that was the whole budget. I brought a W-4 to show that I made $4,866, and that included constable services also.
So he's
So I
going to
just
resubmit his fire budget?
That's what he said, but I told him I wasn't comfortable without anybody else to hear it
Okay.
and to be brought to the message to you himself, because
Right.
it's hearsay that way.
Right.
And I don't want to be in the middle of that. But this was a letter from the chairman of the Emergency Management Committee, and he told me he sent it to you, but he told me to bring extra copies because he called me from South Carolina today.
He sent me an email the other day, but I
So
haven't
don't know, is
received
that
a
some-
letter from him.
Would that be proper for me to give you that? Because he would represent, and he would present the budget for the Emergency Management Committee. I wouldn't.
Right, I had received an email and I had
Because he's
forwarded
gone on
it
vacation.
to Brian and to Ed. I didn't forward it to you, Cindy, because
Right.
it affected it had to do with the budget, and that would be a conflict if I had forwarded it to you.
Sure. So anyway, on that budget, he agreed that he'd put in you know, the amount that was not correct. All right, so, and he wanted to change it back, he said, but I can't discuss that. That's, you know, that's something he has to do with you, because I think, I don't want it to become he said, she said.
Yeah. Okay, and so we'll wait to hear from Stephen.
Yeah, he came in when I was here this afternoon, about
Okay.
3:30 or 4 o'clock.
Thank you. IT support?
We had a discussion regarding the IT budget last week, so I took a closer look at that. I did include the replacement of 3 computers.
Good.
So that has been added. We're currently averaging, based on what we have paid for IT support, because we are contracted out for $1,465 a month for 15 hours of service. That does include the 5% payment made to the Hampshire Council of Governments.
It does not include
It does
that?
include,
Oh,
it does include.
Okay,
The
so
1,465 includes the 5% that
Okay.
is,
COG.
that HCOG receives.
Yeah.
We have had some, refer to it as over hours. So we've been averaging to date approximately, as I have it here, we're averaging $2,102, or call it $2,103, it's .96. So $2,103 a month for support, and that does include the after-hours charge.
Okay, that's what I wondered. So, okay. So if we contracted for more, we would pay a lower hourly rate?
Well, I've asked them to, I told them I'd like to take a look at increasing our hours from 15 to 17 hours a month, and I'm not convinced that's even enough.
Okay.
But anyway, I asked them to just, you know, if we were to increase it to 17 hours a month, what would the cost be? So
Good.
I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Okay, so you'll let us know.
Yeah, I don't want to continue to pay the after hours
surcharge,
rate. It's
right.
right.
That would
More money.
Right, thank you.
Marlene, do you know off the top of your head, was it just kind of an odd year? I mean, truly for me, I can't imagine with the number of computers we have that we're using them for 17 hours a month. I mean, what's going on where we need to utilize them that much?
Well, I don't have the log with me.
No, I understand it, but I mean...
Well, and I'd be glad to provide that.
I mean, I could
log.
imagine something happened in everybody's computers, but that just, I mean,
For example, the police chief contacted Paragus the other day.
Yeah.
Their computer kept shutting down.
Yeah.
So they have a laptop that they needed to have installed or set up. So that was a problem. They came out, and I believe there was, you know, an hour and a half there. It was during the day.
I don't mean for you to account for every hour. It just seems, I mean, I don't even know how many computers
Is it that we have all
includes.
computers and they're crashing all the time?
I don't know.
Well, I don't think that, we replaced the treasurer's computer this year. That crashed, and that's on the expense budget. But there are many problems that come up. It could be with email. The town clerk has had a problem with emails. I have.
With the migration?
Migration was separate.
That was
Right.
That was a separate, that was
I know
a
there was
capital.
some fallout from the migration.
Right, and they reduced that, but that was under the capital article. This is just routine maintenance that they do, and then if there's anything that comes up with the department issues. The treasurer collector's office has had ongoing issues with email. They've had issues with Tyler, accessing Tyler. And that has been something that Paragus has had to look into, and then they contact Tyler to work with them.
Okay. Well, thanks. I was, you know.
I think the log would be interesting to look at.
Oh, I'd be glad to.
Just to see if
I
there's
look at that.
You know,
Well,
spikes
can I-
or
yeah,
if it's always
steady.
over.
And I can say from my personal experience in managing this kind of contract for a nonprofit, what I found was that the company providing that support was engaging in routine maintenance activities that they deemed appropriate. When we actually sat down to discuss what what was ideal versus what was necessary, we decided to decrease how much we paid for that ongoing support. I mean, they told us all the dire things that could happen to us if we didn't engage in this routine maintenance, and we thanked them for their warning and decided to engage at a lower level anyway. So, yeah, we need to know.
And does this include the charge that Paradis has, I think, too? Is this like totals, or is the HCOG have an additional charge for Paragus on it?
We are billed $1,465 a month for 15 hours. The $1,465 includes the 5% that the COG receives.
Thanks. I didn't know if that would come under a COG bill or something.
How many computers do they maintain?
Pretty good, huh?
Oh, my goodness.
I might consider it.
Nothing.
Well, they take care of the computer. There's a computer at the highway garage, the fire department, and the police department does not have remote access to the network. However, they do offer, support to the police department, as they did the other day. And all the offices here, Lydia, do you have 2 computers in your office or one?
One regular computer.
One, and then the other one is a
desk
state.
And a laptop.
Right. Treasure collector's office has 3
I have a
computers.
We have a laptop and a regular computer in the town clerk's office. I also have another big computer, but that is the state computer, has nothing to do with the town. It's a
Right,
closed
right.
circuit, and that is all just.
I mean, every
stuff.
employee has a computer, so.
I think you might be right, Brian. I mean, initially, I thought 17 hours even seemed low to me, but, the more I think about it, how many problems actually come up in a given month, and I'm trying to think how many times I call IT.
Yeah, I'm not
at
sure it's
work,
problems.
so-
It may be regular
Yeah,
maintenance.
maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to talk about whether that's the level of maintenance we want.
Yeah.
What is regular maintenance?
Oh, they come in and they update every program.
Patches and
they do
software
that.
updates.
Software maintenance.
Yeah. mhm. Or they'll back up your they back stuff up. So,
I think we're all saying the same thing. You
Yeah.
know, it would be nice to just, for these hours, what are we getting every month automatically out of this number of hours versus is this just 17 hours when we call because I can't access the server or something?
Right. There is the routine maintenance, and then there are
Yeah.
issues that come up.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Can
what
you
that-
just ask Paragus to come up with a bullet list of the services that they're providing for that and provide that to us at our next meeting?
Or at least the scheduled ones, because
Yeah,
we can
that's what I
control
meant.
that. Otherwise, obviously, we don't know if something breaks, but if
Yeah,
we know
I don't
schedule.
want to know every.
If we know every month,
break,
7 of
but-
those 17 hours are for me, it's gonna be,
But
whoa,
if
wait a
it's,
second,
software support, what
Yeah,
software,
right.
I'm just,
And periodically, I imagine we get quotes from new companies every couple of years.
This is a contract that it's through the COG,
Yeah.
and the COG hires the vendor.
yeah.
Okay.
And is that 17 hours, excuse me for interrupting you guys, but does that include support for the schools as well?
No.
So who does the school use?
They have their own IT person.
We have a
Well,
person.
can that, is there?
I approached the
It's an
school
obvious
superintendent a
question
couple of
comes up.
years ago about
No.
that. It won't work.
We tried it a couple of years ago, didn't work.
That
Yeah.
person takes care of both schools, the high
It's a
school, the
full-time
elementary school.
position
Yeah.
up there, and it just wouldn't fit into his schedule.
Yep.
Okay, so, but,
Good thinking,
but there
but
is,
no.
okay, but there is still the option, I guess, of bringing more, that support in-house, perhaps, why are you saying no already?
No, that was
That
Bobby.
is an option. Okay,
I was pointing to Bobby.
Out of here.
I was pointing to Bobby to hire him.
For $30,000, you could hire someone.
Exactly. Or and he could still be a reporter, assist the guy at the school, who could be the IT overseer, if you will, and they're handling all the systems throughout the community.
I like that idea, actually. Or like a part-time person who's
Yeah.
just adding.
Sure.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is I don't know how much of this is hardware related and whether we have an inventory of our computers town-wide, or at least exclusive of the school. But one of the things that we used to do when I was working a while ago.
Did they have computers back then?
And oversaw IT.
Did they have computing back then?
Well, we did, we had those little abacus things. And just floppy drives, no hard drives. But anyway, is that we had an ongoing hardware replacement program.
Right.
Where each year we replaced the oldest computers
Yep.
in the town or in the organization. With the most recent
Sure.
hardware and primarily hardware. Software, you tend to want to basically have commonality throughout, so everyone's working with the same software. But at least hardware-wise, because of the technology advances today, and the fact that some systems are slower, they're not as large as they should be, given the software capacities that are required now. But we would do that, and so if we would replace every 5 years, we would replace 20% of our computers.
Yeah.
Right.
The oldest ones would get replaced, whether you buy them or whether we lease them or whatever. But at least then we're dealing with the hardware downfalls, if you will, of older systems. And
Don't we already do that? We replace stuff every year.
We're replacing
I don't know,
3
Daryl. I mean,
computers
this
for this
repeat-
coming
3
year.
computers a year.
So
Well, for this, 3 are up for
Yeah,
replacement
but-
this coming year.
You have been replaced every year.
Oh, we've been replaced, yeah, we.
replace computers.
Yes, absolutely, we do.
Right, but usually those replacements are associated with problematic systems.
Yeah.
This is more proactive.
Right.
Where every 5 years, every year you're replacing 20% of your system.
Like we do at the schools.
Yeah, and that way you're not, and that reduces the number of calls for hardware problems.
Right.
The way software advances, it sort of, it creates it creates a system where the hardware becomes, null and void by itself anyway.
Sucks up so much memory.
Yeah, so I mean,
But you can lease them, whatever, but I mean, you might want to be a little bit more proactive with that, but certainly it might be something you want to consider in terms of getting more resources in to
More bang
assist
for your
the
buck.
IT director and make that overall entity, if you will, allow that entity to oversee all of the systems throughout the community.
It's my hope that over the summer or next fall, the finance committee will meet to consider creative ideas like that before we get to next budget season. So hopefully we can take a look at it then.
Not to beat a dead horse, but along those lines would be if the equipment's newer, theoretically, you'd have less problems, right?
Exactly.
So that's what, that's what it
The hardware
ultimately,
problems are
yes,
fewer
right,
and far
right.
between who's dedicated to
So then the other number would drop down, you'd think, but, okay. Any more on the IT? Those are good points, though, I mean, we should have a busy summer. I mean, I agree with Sean, summer and fall's the time to try to hit some of these, because
I think each one of you guys should have an iPad right now. quite
We should.
frankly. I can't help but look at all the paper, and Heather's commenting on this as well.
Yeah.
we should.
The paper that is being used by this group, and it's being regurgitated, reiterated
Yes.
with different iterations of the budget.
Oh.
If you
This is
each
half
had,
the
if you
paper we
each
had
had,
last week.
exactly, if you each had an iPad, which is, you can get for $125 a piece.
Yep.
Spend $1,000 and the FinCom, if you will, with the finance team can look at their computers.
And you do that, you don't have to have all
I
this.
heard someone say, let's be more professional, let's project up on a screen, well,
There'll still be some.
that's another thought too.
Bobby?
Along those lines, I know it came up last year during one of the last meetings before town meeting. Has this group considered holding these meetings over at the safety complex where you have the smart board and you have everything right there?
Yes.
I mean, Stephen
Yes, it's
offered
come up
last
quite a
year.
few times.
It's an easy access and it's a great room to use.
Yeah.
And we use it for all of our 350th meetings now.
Yeah, and I
Because
definitely.
everything's right on the screen.
We did talk about it last week.
And we're moving in all these directions. I mean, this year we took the first step of just meeting year round. We haven't typically done that. And I know what at least Betsy and I talked about is sort of mapping out the summer, and having weeks dedicated to addressing some of these creative ideas so that next year we can actually make these changes.
But with expanded IT leadership, not to, again, beat that horse, but with expanded IT leadership coming from somewhere, whether it's a school or what have you, and additional resources, that area could be more proactive in upgrading this community to where it should be from a technological standpoint.
If you're not an
And
in-house
potentially could save a lot of money. A lot of money.
Well, because the IT budget's increasing, it may now be more advantageous to the
Right.
schools to pick up somebody at part-time, eight months to assist in that way.
And so I'm saying, yeah, we plan for it next year.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next meeting,
Oh, we have to schedule it.
right?
Okay.
Are we not doing,
What do we got left?
what did we miss?
What?
What do you, what?
Next meeting, you guys are on the docket for the next one.
And when is the budget?
For the budget, right.
Where we're at.
The financial oversight update, Brian, I'd just like to,
Oh, yeah.
so I.
I'm
as I-
sorry. You got to come on up,
I
though.
was looking for the smart board with the agenda and I didn't see it, so.
It's over your right shoulder.
Yeah.
What, Bora's Concrete Services?
Honestly, those things cost a fortune. Those things,
They do, they're expensive.
yeah, they're very expensive.
Okay, we have our staff, part of our staff from the treasurer collector's office, so.
And you were looking for an update on what happened this week and where we're at, is that correct? Everybody's,
I just want to know how you're doing it with it.
well, it's only been a week, so we haven't gone too far yet.
She's
But,
missing her time.
just for an update, what's happened this week, we had Point Software System come in and do some training with Sharon and Joe on posting and how to handle all that piece. So,
Tax bills.
yeah,
Joe Petson, she's our
Joanne
temporary.
Petson, she's our temp.
Thank you.
Then, so all the bills, the excise bills that were due as of Monday, I would say 90%, maybe 95% of all those bills now are posted. So we're up to speed on that. Real estate tax, I believe Sharon spoke of that
Yep.
earlier.
She did.
But those, the third and fourth quarter went out and mailed this past Monday, so everyone will be getting their bill. We'll be busy for at least a couple weeks, if not 3 weeks. And I want to say thanks, because we had a team effort going. Sharon, Jenny, Joe, Wilma, Barb, they all worked as a team, and everything's out the door
And
pretty
thank you to all
quickly.
of you, by the way, for doing that.
What's that?
Thank you to all of you for doing that. I know people were in over the weekend and, you know, yeah. thank you.
Everything is out the door, so
Yep.
that's fantastic. We updated, or we prepped some past due bills that were hanging around the office, some back to even September, October last year. So those went to Derek this week, and those vendors will be very happy to get that resolved. We are sorting through and organizing some of the files that are there. And also the final thing really that got updated this week was the bank accounts now are all converted. All the paperwork got changed, and that's all set and complete. I guess one bank still needs some information, but that's almost done. And then the bond applications were submitted, so that's our whole busy week.
Gotten a lot done in a
Yeah,
week. Thank
yeah.
you.
So, Edwina, Derek referred earlier in his conversation about trying to identify the unapplied revenue or expenses? Revenue, right, okay. And that he needed to work with your office to get that done, and
Yeah.
what is your perspective on that?
Well, he gave me a file, and the unapplied revenue that he has highlighted is every single batch, including everything in the batch. And I don't really know the item itself that he's questioning, so we have to go over that. But it's, like I say, it's only been a week. So But
And Bay State is going to be helping with this process in your office, is that correct? Is that my understanding?
we're discussing
Well,
it
yeah, we are,
tomorrow.
they're discussing it tomorrow.
They will be assisting with the reconciliation process.
Right.
Right.
So as far as the, I don't want you guys, I'm just coming in and tail end of this today, but, you know, with the work that's being done by the people that are in the office, they're making a ton of progress. So
Oh,
when we
absolutely,
deal with, when we speak with Bay State, let them know where these guys are, that's going to probably push the conversation to exactly what they think collectively may or may not need for assistance or not, or what type of assistance might be necessary, right? Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
So,
We met with Marlene today to try to just brainstorm before our meeting tomorrow
Yeah.
with Justin, which is now gonna be a conference call to say, okay, these are the things that I'm doing, these are the things she's
Yeah.
doing, so that we can say, okay, these we do need help with, because his proposal was
very broad.
very
Yeah,
broad.
Yeah,
And so now we can say to him, this is where we
Fine-tune
really
it.
do think we need the help, but we're okay over here.
Yep.
You know, luckily she's expert at the treasurer's office, and I'm learning to be a tax collector pretty quick, so that's good news for us, so I think, you know, that's good.
Right, and part of the reason I think we're asking this question is still the goal is we want to make sure we get 17 in the books before, you know, we had a kind of a April 1, well, I guess that we're probably not going to hit that deadline, but certainly before the end of this fiscal year.
we have to.
We have to have that, and I know it's gonna take the whole financial team to make that happen, and that's why I asked the question.
So we're ready for Derek to come with stuff, so, you know, he's off, he's taking a class next week and stuff, so when he gets back, I think it's all full force, you know, DOR's been coming and having our meetings with us,
Yeah.
so we're
And
ready
so,
to move forward.
just for my clarification, I think I know the answer, I'm going to ask it anyway. So when you say you received the batch is multiple payments, transactions, and somewhere within there is what he's missing?
Correct. Or-
Yeah, so he's got to tell you
He's
though.
listing values, but he's not identifying which piece he needs to.
Well, if he knows the value, he
clarify.
should know what piece it goes to, right?
Yes, but it's
Isn't
not
that how it
clear.
works?
It's not clear on the spreadsheets.
On
So
the
he
on the
has-
ones you're receiving?
Yes.
But shouldn't he know that? If it's $58.36, it's got to have something associated with it. That's what you need, what it was associated with, right?
But
So he should have
doesn't-
that.
Yeah, I don't know what the pieces he needs.
Well, he,
If there are
Why
10,
doesn't he just turn over the transactions? That's in question.
Well, because he was
Yes.
instructed to take
Yeah.
the whole batch from Justin, he was instructed to take the whole batch and just put it over here.
All right,
You have
we'll-
turnover. So that's the
We'll
process.
have conversations tomorrow with,
We'll get that figured out.
yeah.
with
we-
Bay
Is
State.
State gonna make a proposal as to what kind of resources Derek would need as well?
Yes.
In this conversation?
Oh, yes, they already have.
I'm assuming, Marlene, this class that Derek's taking next week, it absolutely has to be taken? Because, I mean, right now it doesn't seem
Well,
like
it's
the time to
one
be
time
gone
a
for
year,
week.
and this is that
And he has to
time.
take it?
Right.
And DOR agreed.
Well, I mean, it's optional, it's in your best
No, he needs
interest.
to take it.
You know,
to
we had a
take it?
meeting,
Okay.
financial team meeting last week, and I did state that the timing, you know, is not good. Terry Williams, our DO rep, was there, and he agreed that, you know, the timing is not good, but he recognized that it's very important for your accountant to do this.
So they felt comfortable with the DOR?
Thank you.
The last
You have-
thing-
yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
Bob, so the last thing we had on our list is, once we do talk with Justin tomorrow and kind of
Yep.
get a game plan, we're gonna put a proposal for you guys together to obviously compensate us for the extra work that we're doing, and that, you know, we wanna wait till we have that, but you'll be getting, you know, written proposal.
I
from
think
us.
I speak for everybody when I say none of us expect anyone to work for free.
Yeah.
That's not, you know.
Except for us.
Yeah, except for those guys.
All right, did you have anything else you wanted to add for tonight?
No.
So, thank you.
And
that?
and I guess
Oh, I waived it.
we, at
I
some
don't get it.
point, we can certainly wait a few weeks, but we would like to see a list of, you know, from the treasurer's side, loans, what's on, what's
Yeah.
coming off. We generally get a report like that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe in a few weeks, it's just helpful for us to know where we stand with that, so.
Yeah, so we didn't do our budget, we thought Laura Lee had started it, but we haven't found it as of
Yeah.
yet. So when we come for that, that'll be part of that
That'll be
presentation, if that works.
That's
Yeah.
fine. We get it.
Okay.
I mean, if the accountant's going to request information, he should specify exactly
Which
what he
piece?
wants,
Exactly.
instead of just number
Agreed.
filing.
Yeah.
So we just need clarification.
Yep.
Yeah, we haven't had the time to, I haven't had the time to sit with them and get that
Yeah.
clarification
They'll
yet, so.
they'll get that worked out, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Maybe we can get some of that before he goes away next week.
So they have something to work on.
Yeah.
How many days is he out next week? Do we know? Anyone?
Is it 3 days?
Yeah, so he's actually not here the rest of, he's only here for a little bit tomorrow, so he'll be out, the last I knew, half of tomorrow, then Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, he's in part of the day tomorrow, and then I think he's out the rest of it, and then he's out 3 days next
He's,
week.
when you go to this class, you test, and so
Right.
he's preparing for the test.
Prepare,
Yeah.
Tough timing.
Exactly.
Wow. So not
It
much gonna
is,
be
it
done.
is, absolutely.
And doesn't he have to have that certification by a certain date too, so that was part of the pressure?
Yeah.
I don't know about a date, if there's a date associated with it, but I know it
There
only
might
comes
be.
up once a year.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you, ladies. No, thank you.
Sharon.
You've had long days. Thanks for hanging in there tonight.
Just also, one other thing, Ed had asked about, for budget discussions, additional staffing that's on there. Ed, you had asked that.
Yeah, we had talked about the office, your office, as far as if budgeting some additional staffing at certain times, or, I think that was discussion, right?
Well, I know we've talked previously about, potential additional staffing in the treasurer collector's office, the accountant's office. We did increase the expense on the town administrator's side last week.
Now, with Bay State in it may change what we were thinking about, so I guess maybe the best thing is let Bay State work their magic and see where we're at.
I mean, there's no doubt that we're gonna have to reallocate or find some funds and find some people, whether it's Bay State or whatnot, but it seems a little, until you actually sit down with Bay State and find out what they're proposing, I don't think we can even have the discussion right now.
Plus, I think we have to look at what we spent extra for bringing in, all these additional resources and include that as part of the budget, because I'm not sure what Bay State we're paying for, because they're still telling us,
Yeah.
we're still working out what their services are, so we don't really have a price.
When is the next meeting?
Tomorrow.
Well, the next meeting that we have on our agenda is scheduled for Wednesday, the 21st. I don't know if that was,
That was just put on there
Just throwing
for
out-
discussion
for in 2 weeks.
purposes, or if you want to meet sooner.
Is that too long?
No, I think that's okay.
Okay.
But I think we need some things, do you think you'll be ready to have the budget on, on some sort of computer that we can put it on the smart board so we can meet in there like, the chief recommended, and Bobby?
yeah.
Well, if that room is not available, I did talk with the school about, they're going to hook me up with a laptop.
Okay.
And so perhaps if the training room is not available, then, I could have a laptop with the budget on that. We won't have a projector just yet, unless the school has a projector I could use.
They have one there at the training room, and that's a really good room for getting work
Right.
done. I mean, I like
Someday,
that.
yeah, and that would be great if we could use the training room if it's available.
Okay. What do you guys think?
That's fine.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah. Yep. I think it is.
And it, we, kind of a working session, we can see where our numbers lie, and then we can start thinking about getting back to departments about
Yeah.
where we stand on things, and I guess I'd be really interested to hear, as soon as you know what Bay State is proposing, and I know all of us on the finance committee would like to know what that is.
And I don't know if this is, how reasonable this is to request, but I wonder if at that meeting, maybe speaking to the TV, we should invite the townspeople who are interested to come and maybe not do TV, because my concern is if we're talking about potentially cuts and whatnot, I don't want the employees who are going to be affected. It's a little uncomfortable. Though I think obviously everyone's invited to come, but on TV to talk about, eliminating jobs, things like that. Not that I know that we're going to have to go there, but I did want to put that out there for consideration. People should feel free to come, and maybe we should consider if it makes sense of, things like the school. Yeah, invite the department, the whole town. That's why I'm saying it now. Because on TV, if you're talking about eliminating someone's job, I think that's a little bit of a sensitive thing for them to come
They're
across.
not all live, they're delayed. So this is
Yeah,
delayed.
but there's, come across on YouTube.
But the citizen requests me to come.
Okay, I'm just saying, I'm just putting my thought out there. Yeah, it's just my thought, yeah.
It's still all public information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch on YouTube and find out that you're facing losing your job.
I think as a municipal employee, everybody knows that. I mean, it's just a given. Every year, you're faced with a budget, so.
Yeah, and, the point to meeting over there is if we can have the budget on a screen and look at it and make changes to it.
It's helpful.
It is helpful, and I guess the question was asked tonight about some of the income numbers, about water and sewer, so have we plugged in those estimates?
The DPW director did a report last week, I believe. I don't know if that was in your packet last week.
I don't remember it, and it's okay, I'm not gonna go digging for it right now, but that would be helpful to have that.
Yeah, the number.
This here?
Yeah, I
Was
didn't
this in
see
your
that.
packet last week?
I do not
No.
remember seeing it,
Okay.
but that doesn't mean
I
it
will
wasn't
make
in there.
copies of this for you.
Yeah, or email it to us or something.
Yeah,
but-
whatever's easiest.
Yeah.
So we have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, March 21st, possibly at the training room, or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
why don't we plan, we're about to check with Steve and
Right.
make sure nothing else is already, Bobby, do you know if you guys have them
Yeah, we are.
that night? Figures. Want to trade? Are you doing overheads and stuff, or you guys just?
That's supposed to be the start of the logo review.
Okay.
I'll shoot it up to our group and let you know.
Okay, you could do it. All right.
Nobody's supposed to get them.
Then you got this smart board.
Thank you.
I
mean, to answer your question, I don't know if we want to move it over there, because I think it's more difficult for John, but, there's a big movable projector type device in the library at Smith Academy, so, not a portable one, though, but.
And maybe if it doesn't work out with at least Marlene having a laptop here.
Yeah, even if we
Yes.
can't do it overhead, at least we have it.
That's a step in the right
Kind
direction.
of the key, what we wanted.
We can meet here.
So
That's
seeing
fine.
it for what we're doing next meeting would be
Would
really
be helpful.
Yeah.
Yep.
It would be nice for everyone to have a visual of it.
Is that the end of your agenda, or should we
Yes.
exit so you can finish?
No, I think that is the end of our agenda.
So 6:30, we're okay, that's an okay time? On the 21st?
No need for us to.
Ed is
together.
6:30 on the 21st, okay? Cindy is 6:30 on the 21st. So it's good for the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Okay.
Is
I
the
don't
Board
know
of
if it's good for
Selectmen
Mark.
agreeable if we did take up some other business
Yeah,
prior
yeah,
to that?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought, but normal time, 6:30 with
Yeah,
the
with these
Finance
guys,
Committee.
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll be at 6 then, you thinking?
It's possible, or it could be a little earlier if there's other.
Make a
depends on
motion to
who it's
adjourn.
supposed to
Second.
be.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is any to adjourn? Is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, John.